If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 1, Game Development System. Viridian City. Night had fallen deep. In a corner of the city, under the dim light of a small rental apartment, a handsome young man with black hair stared intensely at a folder on his computer screen labeled Rainbow EV Puzzle Pop. "This time it's gotta work," he muttered. Taking a deep breath, he dragged the folder with his mouse to a website's upload area and clicked confirm. But the next moment, a big red X appeared, along with an error message, and the folder on his desktop instantly vanished. Unknown error, 404, file corrupted. Damn it! Not again! The young man cursed and slammed his fist on the table. His name was Kairos, and he'd been transported to this world a week ago. The good news, this was a world he loved and knew well, the world of Pokémon. The bad news, he'd been reincarnated as a broke, identityless orphan teen, renting a temporary room on the outskirts of Viridian City, barely scraping by on odd jobs each day. Coming to this world, Kairos had no grand plans of becoming a trainer. He'd be perfectly content just befriending one or two Pokémon and living out his days with them as companions. But reality was even harsher than he'd imagined. Right now, he was dirt poor and couldn't even feed himself properly. If he tried to catch a Pokémon, they'd probably end up homeless together. Picture this: him and his Pokémon on the street with a begging bowl, Kairos handling the crying, the Pokémon doing the pleading. To change this situation, Kairos, who'd been a top game developer in his previous life, spent his first day after arriving researching this world's entertainment industry online. The results were beyond his expectations. While this world had smartphones and computers for everyone, with a highly developed internet, the entertainment sector was basically a blank slate. Whether movies, TV shows, novels, or games, everything was stuck in a primitive, low-level stage. Take this example: the number one game on the League Gaming official hot list cost a whopping 2,030 yen and was called Angry Rocks. It was literally just a racing game where you played as a Guay dude rolling down roads, and it was single player only, not even having online multiplayer. If you were lucky enough to reach the later levels, your Guay dude would evolve into Golem and become like a massive 18-wheeler on the highway, giving pedestrians a taste of what living life to the fullest really meant. This situation filled Kairos with excitement. With his abilities, in a world so starved for gaming culture, he could live comfortably just by casually porting over a few classics from his previous life. But then the problem started. When Kairos spent 2 days creating a simple Pac-Man starter trio game and tried to upload it, the upload failed, and the folder disappeared. At first, he thought his computer was malfunctioning, so he remade the game, took a USB to the internet cafe downstairs to try again, only to encounter the exact same issue. Refusing to give up, he created a new Lucario Gold Miner minigame, but met the same fate again. Including what just happened, this was now the 5th game he'd made that failed to upload and vanished. This was giving Kairos a serious headache. What was he supposed to do? Next week was rent day. But he'd been so focused on making games lately that all the money he had wouldn't even buy a bottle of Moo Moo milk from the convenience store downstairs. Just as he was lost in thought, wrestling with his dilemma, a golden panel suddenly materialized before his eyes. Along with it came an electronic voice. 7-day buffer period complete. Blocking function operating normally. Ding! Congratulations, host! The ultimate Pokémon game development system has been activated. This system can provide you with efficient game development technology to help the host become the ultimate Pokémon game developer. Beginner bonus tech modules activated. Please check your panel. After reading through the information, Kairos's gaze fixed on the first line of text. So my game's failing this whole week was because of this system? The electronic voice spoke again, with a hint of pride. Ding! Please note, host, since you are a transmigrator, to prevent space-time disruption that could result in your erasure, you are temporarily limited to creating games with Pokémon as core content. Non-Pokémon games have been automatically blocked by the system. No need to thank this system. Gee, thanks a million, Kairos muttered sarcastically. He mentally ran through every curse word he'd learned in this lifetime before taking a deep breath and assessing his current situation. Simply put, this system could help him rapidly develop games, but only games with Pokémon as the core content. He looked at the panel, where 2 squares glowed with blue light. Pixel Game Module, Low Tier, can rapidly create pixel-based content. Basic Programming Module, Low Tier, can rapidly create small-scale, simple program content. Unlocking other modules or upgrading existing ones requires emotion points, obtained when others experience anger, shock, emotion, admiration, etc. toward your games or yourself. Current balance, 0. Rapid content creation? Kairos thought for a moment, opened his computer's game development software, and visualized a pixel image in his mind. The next moment, a Pikachu made of yellow pixels instantly appeared on screen. Now that's pretty sweet. Kairos's eyes lit up. Even as a top-tier game developer, creating a game solo required tremendous time and energy. That's why he'd been choosing small-scale games to work on this week. Because making those big games single-handedly was simply impossible. Plus, his specialty was game design, not programming. There was a difference between the two. Usually, Kairos just provided direction, concepts, and ideas while others at the company handled the programming. But with this system, that problem was solved. Not only that, as long as the games he created sparked emotional reactions in others, he could unlock more new modules and create even more advanced Pokémon games. With this realization, Kairos's mind raced. Pokémon core games only, basic programming, pixel limitations. One game immediately came to mind. Pokémon Ruby/Sapphire/Emerald series. This was pure heavyweight material, the Pokémon awakening for countless fans' childhoods, the most classic handheld game ever made. With his current system capabilities, making this game seemed just about perfect. But in that moment, a completely new idea suddenly flashed through Kairos's mind. To unlock more modules and create higher-level games, he needed more emotion points. In that case, the original, authentic Emerald just wouldn't cut it. Sitting at his desk, he suddenly broke into a meaningful smile. If you had to ask what emotion gamers most commonly experienced, it was definitely rage and getting completely wrecked. And even Emerald could deliver that. Kairos clicked his mouse and tapped his keyboard, and a new folder appeared on his desktop. Pokémon Ultimate Emerald, Insanity Mode Limited Edition. Chapter 2, The Special Emerald and an Unexpected Visitor. The game Ultimate Emerald isn't just a remaster of the original Pokémon Emerald. It's a fan-made ROM hack, a masterpiece in fan game creation. It brings in Pokémon and maps from later generations and tweaks the storyline, offering an entirely new experience. But here's the catch, it's brutally difficult. In fact, it's several times harder than the original game. The NPCs are equipped with ridiculously smart AI, analyzing your team and anticipating your moves before pulling off strategies like type coverage, item use, and even advanced tactics like switching Pokémon to secure course. Sometimes, they're even smarter than human players. And forget about brute forcing your way through with overleveling. This game has level restrictions that make that impossible. Most newcomers are completely thrown off, often resorting to guides just to scrape by. As for Insane Mode, that's the game's hidden difficulty. It's not just difficult. It's hell on earth. Ridiculously tough, enough to make you question your very existence. Kairos, though, had his own ideas. He wanted to crank the difficulty even higher, boosting the AI intelligence beyond the game's original scope, giving the NPCs even more flexibility in their battle strategies. After all, this world was full of trainers, and Pokémon were everywhere. Without a challenge, the game would be far too easy for some players. Besides, Kairos's main goal in creating this game wasn't just to mess with players, well, maybe a little. It was about raising the bar for difficulty. Easy mode could wait for later. With that in mind, Kairos opened his files, adjusting his game settings and mentally pitching a few new concepts to the system. System, can you implement these changes? Affirmative. Shall I begin production immediately? Kairos nodded, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. Let's do it. The system was supposed to make things faster, and it did. His development speed shot up, drastically increasing his efficiency. But perfecting the game and making the necessary tweaks took the rest of the night. By the time he finished, the first rays of dawn had already broken. Sunlight streamed through the window as the city outside slowly awoke in a soft glow. Kairos made his final edits to the game's title and description, dragged the file onto the web page, and clicked upload. This time, no blood-red error message flashed on the screen. Instead, 4 green words appeared: upload successful. A long sigh of relief escaped him. He quickly shut the curtains, didn't bother shutting down his computer, and collapsed face first onto the bed beside him. Within seconds, he was out cold. The all-nighter had taken its toll. His body in this world seemed weaker than in his past life, and if he didn't sleep now, he'd probably end up reincarnating a second time. Must sleep immediately. With a deep breath, his body relaxed, and the soft rhythm of his breathing filled the room. Then, from behind the curtains, something strange stirred. A figure emerged from the shadow, a small, flickering flame atop a white candle-like form. Its dark green eyes glowed eerily, and a faint blue flame danced on top. A Litwick. Its cute, almost innocent appearance hid its true nature. This Pokémon wasn't just a source of light. Litwick fed on the souls of the living, using its candle flame to lure travelers before draining their life force. Right now, it swayed gently in the room, a sense of hunger in its eyes. So hungry. If only there was something to eat. Then, its gaze fixed on Kairos, the scent of his soul reaching it. Its flame flickered brighter. This person's scent. So delicious. Just a little taste wouldn't hurt, right? Dash. It was Saturday, and according to Alliance law, most people had the day off, except for those working in service industries. In a world where entertainment options were few, live streaming had become a popular way to kill time. The biggest streaming platform, Saduk platform, suddenly lit up with activity as a long-dormant channel came online. Comments flooded in at breakneck speed. She's here. She's here. My wife is here. Finally streaming. Woo. Early Pidgey catches the Caterpie. Amid the chaos of comments, the stream began, showing a computer desktop wallpaper featuring a Garcomp mid-battle. Thousands of miles away, a woman sat in front of her computer. She was tall, graceful, with grey eyes that seemed to hold countless secrets. Her blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders, gleaming like liquid silk in the sunlight. She exuded a quiet confidence, yet there was an air of warmth to her presence. It was none other than Cynthia, the strongest champion of the Sinnoh League. The woman standing at the pinnacle of Pokémon mastery. Cynthia smiled as the stream came to life. Good morning, everyone. The Alliance didn't have any missions today, so I finally have time to stream. Did you miss me? I missed you all so much. The chat exploded with excitement. I missed you too, babe. She asked if I missed her. She's thinking about me. Finally. I was supposed to work overtime today, but when I heard you were streaming, I straight up quit my job. When I heard you were streaming, I biked 3 hours just to get to an internet cafe. Cynthia chuckled softly, shaking her head. The chat is as witty as ever today. So, what should we do today? I have a rare day off. What do you want to see? The chat quickly flooded with responses. Cynthia, I'll watch whatever you play. How about Battle Road? Watching you play is the best way to learn. No more Battle Road. I want to see something else. Most of the chat agreed, they wanted to see her play Battle Road, the game that had taken the community by storm for the last 6 months. Despite some issues with bugs and the lack of updates, it remained popular due to its custom Pokémon team building and realistic battle simulations. Cynthia smiled, agreeing with the majority. She clicked on the red and white Pokeball icon, opening the game. But when the login screen appeared, she froze. Fatal server error, unable to connect. Frustrated comments exploded in the chat. Dream Factory slacking again. Server crashes every other day. They make billions but can't fix this. Joke of a company. Cynthia sighed, closing the game window. Looks like no Battle Road today. Any other ideas? The chat immediately flooded with suggestions. Angry Rocks. Pikachu Legends. How about a movie? One comment caught Cynthia's eye. A paid red super chat, from a long-time viewer who had donated millions. Cat who loves fish, Cynthia, the Alliance website has a new game promotion. Want to check it out? Curious, Cynthia glanced at the ad on the side of her stream interface. She clicked on it, expecting to see a collection of new games. But instead, she was disappointed. The page was filled with low-quality games, including 3 reskinned versions of Angry Rocks, each one a simple rehash with different Pokémon. Just as she was about to close the page, one game's cover art stopped her in her tracks. A silhouette of a dragon shrouded in mist, glowing golden symbols beneath it. Wait. Her eyes narrowed. That silhouette. She recognized it. It was unmistakably Rayquaza, the legendary ruler of the skies. Her heart skipped. She knew Rayquaza's legend, she'd studied it as part of her work as a mythology archaeologist. But the last known records of Rayquaza's existence were hundreds of years old. The text had been lost to a fire. No one knew if the legendary Pokémon even existed anymore. Yet here it was, in the form of a game cover. This can't be a coincidence. But Cynthia quickly dismissed the thought. No, it's impossible. She had read about Rayquaza in the last remaining texts. The silhouette on the cover was too close to the real thing. She focused on the game's creator, whose name appeared simply as Wind. She'd never heard of anyone by that name. With a growing sense of urgency, Cynthia pulled out her phone to search for more information. But the search yielded nothing: no publisher, no contact details. It appeared to be from an independent creator. This is tricky. Despite her desire to investigate further, Cynthia's curiosity got the best of her. She clicked on the game's description, her eyes scanning the simple text. Pokémon, Emerald, Beta. The description was minimal. Encounter and raise unique Pokémon, form your team, and embark on a wonderful adventure with them. But the real kicker was the two red warnings underneath. Warning: non-professional trainers prohibited. The game is not responsible for health risks such as high blood pressure, heart disease, etc. Cynthia raised an eyebrow. High blood pressure? Heart disease? She shook her head. What kind of game could do that? But the second line caught her attention even more. The first player to finish this game will gain a reward. A reward unlike any other. The mysterious line sent chills down her spine. She immediately went to the purchase button. Chapter 3, Cynthia's first experience. Obviously, it wasn't just Cynthia who was shocked by this game's price. The viewers in her stream were completely losing it too, flooding the chat. 5,922 yen? This little pixel game that's barely a few hundred MB, how much content could it possibly have? And they dare charge 5,922 yen. The game creator is so generous, he could have just robbed us directly, but instead he went to the trouble of making a game to give us two. Even Angry Rox only dares charge 2,036 yen, and Battle Road season passes are just 3,084 yen. What gives this game the right to cost so much? I bet they're using that 2M yen prize as clickbait to make a quick buck, then disappear. Pixel game plus this kind of description wouldn't be the first time. The viewers had no idea about Cynthia's thoughts regarding the Rayquaza cover and the game creator. To them, this was just an outrageously overpriced cash grab, so naturally, they started tearing it apart. After all, what good game costs 5,922 yen? But the next moment, under everyone's gaze, Cynthia pressed the purchase button and chose to pay. Chat went dead silent. A few seconds later, it exploded again, question marks flying across the screen. Stay calm. Honey. I can afford this money, but you can't spend it like this. Holy crap, 5,922 yen without even blinking. Boss has lost her mind. Facing these comments, Cynthia quickly explained. Don't worry, everyone, I'm interested precisely because this game is priced so high. If the content isn't good, as a game tester, I can get a full refund. Don't worry. Based on what it says, this is a game about Pokémon battles. If I actually manage to clear it, there's even 100,000 yen prize to win. With Cynthia's explanation, chat started to understand a bit better. Makes sense. If they dare post that description on the official Alliance website, once someone clears it, if they don't pay out that 2M yen, the creator's going to jail. Ha ha ha, the creator probably thought they'd make a quick buck and run, making the game super hard, but they never imagined the first person to play their game would be Sinnoh's champion. Right, and Cynthia is the Alliance's designated professional game tester. If she's unsatisfied with the game, she can request a refund anytime. LMAO, so this person's game just sold one copy and now they're gonna lose 100 grand. Guy above, it's losing 2,050,534 yen. Be precise. Seeing chat calm down and get playful, Cynthia felt relieved. She definitely couldn't talk about the game cover information or her real hidden purpose. Information about the top-tier legendary Pokémon was classified and couldn't be casually shared with ordinary citizens, or it might cause panic or other issues. So she needed a reasonable explanation for buying the game. Plus, when she saw that price, somehow a thought suddenly occurred to her. Maybe creating a game like this really is worth that much? Someone who understood the legendary Pokémon Rayquaza couldn't possibly be ordinary. Would they really make a cheap cash grab game? Besides, 5,922 yen really wasn't much for her. So what was the real situation? She'd find out by trying it. Anyway, being the first to clear the game and get the creator's contact info was her real goal. With that thought, Cynthia took a deep breath and, under her viewers' watchful eyes, clicked the game download button. The biggest advantage of pixel games was their small file size. Within seconds, a crisp ding sounded and an emerald icon appeared on Cynthia's desktop. As she clicked with her mouse, a window immediately appeared. After a black screen, a water droplet fell from a verdant leaf, accompanied by dynamic electronic music, dropping into a pond below and creating ripples. The camera panned up. Under sunlight, across a vast grassland, a young man wearing a green bandana rode a bicycle, racing with the wind. Countless Pokémon silhouettes appeared alongside him, keeping pace. Running Manectric, flying Flygon, following Volbeat. And one adorable Torchic, clumsily spreading its little claws as it charged forward. Not paying attention, it tumbled head over heels, then quickly scrambled up to keep running, as if afraid of being left behind. The camera rose again, the screen burst with light, and immediately after, the emerald green game logo appeared. Pocket Monsters, Emerald. This opening animation left even Cynthia stunned. 6 months ago, when the Alliance invited her to become a special game tester, she'd actually streamed quite a few games. Pixel games made up part of that proportion, and in her memory, these games were characterized by crude, rough graphics that focused entirely on core gameplay. After all, pixel games had the lowest production costs, they were the top choice for studios and developers with ideas but no startup capital. But correspondingly, their visual presentation would be very poor. Yet now, just this opening animation completely overturned her understanding of pixel games. While it still had that familiar pixel feel, the visuals were incredibly polished, even having a three-dimensional quality, as if truly presenting itself before her eyes. In this moment, just seeing this opening sequence, Cynthia immediately made a judgment. This was definitely not just some shoddy cash grab game. At the same time, viewers in the stream also realized something was off and started commenting. Holy shit! This is a pixel game. How does this visual feel and presentation seem so strong? This music rhythm is amazing too, I feel brainwashed after hearing it once. Though it's way behind Battle Road's opening animation, this is already more polished than any other game I've seen. Oh, it might actually be worth 5,922 yen. Cynthia glanced at chat and shook her head slightly. Just an animation like this definitely wasn't worth 5,922 yen. She'd need to see the actual game content to judge. But her heart was actually starting to feel anticipation. She took a deep breath and pressed the X key as prompted. The logo disappeared, replaced by a prompt. Please enter your name. Cynthia hesitated, then typed. Strawberry ice cream. Of all sweets, ice cream was her favorite. And strawberry was her preferred flavor. On screen, another prompt appeared. Welcome to the world of Pokémon, Strawberry Ice Cream. An adventure filled with courage and friendship awaits you. Never forget your original intentions, use bonds and passion to become the strongest Pokémon trainer. Right then, chat flooded with comments. She still loves ice cream so much, I'm crying. Haha, if I said the streamer is already the world's strongest trainer, how would you respond to that? But Cynthia, looking at those words, suddenly paused. Courage, friendship, bonds and passion. Something different seemed to flicker in her eyes. After a long moment, Cynthia took a deep breath and solemnly pressed the start button. Upon officially entering the game, a little girl wearing a green cap representing her appeared on a moving truck. Jumping down from the truck, Mom came forward to explain the current situation. The player and family had moved to a new home in a small town in the Hone region called Little Root Town. Today was also an important day when the player would receive their starter Pokémon and set out on their trainer journey. As Cynthia played, Little Root Town's exquisite architectural design again surprised and amazed her. Though she'd never been to Little Root Town in the Hone region, the appearance of these surrounding buildings was exactly identical to the Hone regional features in her memory, completely consistent. You could tell the creator had definitely researched materials carefully and compared them to real examples. The swaying grass and trees in the wind, blooming flower details, and even the Pokémon accompanying the townspeople around town left Cynthia somewhat incredulous. All of it was lifelike, though somewhat blurry, it was remarkably realistic. Could a pixel game really achieve this? Next, as the plot advanced, after adjusting the clock at home and meeting a boy from the neighboring house, the boy asked Cynthia to call out his name. She hadn't realized this would be her rival going forward. Being terrible at naming, she just called him black-haired boy, causing another round of laughter in chat. That's just how Cynthia is, without ice cream, she can't name anything. Haha, seeing the champion name things just like me puts me at ease. At the same time, discussions about the game's core mechanics appeared. So next is getting Pokémon, right? How's this pixel game going to do Pokémon battle animations? Feels impossible to pull off. Yet, will they just skip battle animations? This game's scenery is already worth seeing, treat it like going on a trip. Shouldn't be. Didn't this game's description say the difficulty was really high? Something about heart disease and cerebral hemorrhage not being their responsibility. While chat discussed, Cynthia's character reached the forest entrance above the small town. Cries for help came from the distance. A Iono was chasing a professor in a lab coat around. Cynthia looked at this professor's appearance and blinked. Why did this professor seem familiar? Wasn't this Professor Birch from the Hone region? Strawberry ice cream. Perfect timing, there are Pokeballs in that bag over there, help me out. A dialogue box popped up. Chat immediately burst into laughter. Holy crap, Professor Birch, is that you? Just a few days and you're this weak? A Iono can chase you around. The top research professor of the Hone region is asking Sinnoh's strongest champion for help dealing with a Iono biting his butt. Why am I having dreams like this? Ha 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 ha, strawberry ice cream, please help me, ha 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 ha. Hey, you in front, your comment is hurting my ears. At the same time, the Pokémon selection interface appeared before Cynthia. 3 Pokeballs, corresponding to a chick-like fire-type Pokémon with orange down, Torchic. A lizard-like grass-type Pokémon with a twig in its mouth, cool and handsome, Trico. And a water-type Pokémon that looked honest and cute, Mudcup. These 3 Pokémon were the starter trio unique to the Hone region, popular starter Pokémon choices for new trainers in that area. Looking at the 3 Pokémon's images, Cynthia began considering. If this was a high-difficulty battle game, then this starter Pokémon choice would naturally be crucial. After all, she'd need to rely on this Pokémon to get through the early stages. As Cynthia pondered, chat was giving her advice. Pick Torchic. Torchic is so cute. Mudcup is the goat, okay? Like my Swampert's Pentagon Warrior stats. When can something 4x weak to grass sit at the table? Here's a grass not for you. How about Trico? I think Trico's pretty well rounded, and evolving into Sceptile is pretty strong too. Looking at chat and combining her own thoughts, she quickly made her final decision, choosing Trico's Pokeball. The reason for this choice was that she'd been somewhat interested in Trico as a Pokémon before. Now that she had a chance to experience it, that was pretty good. Besides, Grass-type Pokémon should indeed have some early game advantages, with various recovery moves like Absorb and Leech Seed. As cool ripples appeared on the screen, the game instantly switched to battle view. Stirring battle music immediately began, boiling drum beats and orchestral electronic harmonies that got your blood pumping. Looking at the interface and options before her, Cynthia instantly understood this game's battle system. Turn-based. Simply put, both sides took turns acting, with whoever was faster getting to move first. For a pixel game, this battle format did seem most appropriate. While controlling Trico to attack with Pound, she spoke to her stream viewers. From what I can see so far, this game is quite creative. But I haven't encountered a game that uses turn-based Pokémon battles before, so I don't know how deep this game's system goes in that regard. Chat chimed in with their opinions. Yeah, turn-based seems pretty decent. You move once, I move once, feels kind of boring though. Wouldn't that leave no room for skill, just whoever has a type advantage or higher level wins? True, that does seem like an issue. Polished graphics, great music, nice creativity, but the battle system is weak and boring, just number comparisons. Not as good as Battle Road. 4 out of 5 stars overall, assessment complete. Chapter 4, Torchic used Ember, super effective. While the chat was hotly debating whether turn-based combat was a fatal flaw for this game, Cynthia held a different opinion entirely. She thought carefully, turn-based combat might seem shallow on the surface, but it could have tremendous potential for development. Actually, Battle Road's mechanics were also a form of turn-based system, since it was just the program executing the game's content. Especially during PvP matches, whenever both players input commands, there was always a long response delay. Battle Road added voice command functionality, and with the excellent individual AI of the Pokémon, the battles felt more realistic. So, she was actually somewhat looking forward to this game's upcoming battle performance. That said, she didn't think this game could provide the same level of trainer understanding improvement that Battle Road offered. Because any Pokémon battle game faced an unavoidable problem, the developers had to have extensive knowledge of every single Pokémon. From the moves they could learn, their types and abilities, to their base stats, and even each Pokémon's real-world characteristics, everything had to be perfectly recreated to have genuine battle value and meaning. Battle Road barely managed this, but they had a professional team of over 100 people providing their database behind the scenes. Even so, Battle Road frequently had various bugs and mix-ups like Pokémon with wrong abilities, or type errors, like Grass-type Piplup or Flying-type Torkoal. It wasn't that they were slacking off, it was completely normal. With so many Pokémon to convert into game data, problems were inevitable. And this game she was playing now was developed by a single individual, which obviously made this an even bigger issue. Thinking this, Cynthia shook her head slightly and refocused on the game. As Trico's pound connected, Poochyana's HP instantly dropped by half. Poochyana countered with tackle, and Trico took some chip damage. Trico's second pound knocked Poochyana out completely, ending the battle. Seeing this, the chat erupted in heated discussion again. I knew it turn-based is pretty boring after all. This doesn't look hard at all. 2 hits, and the opponent's Pokémon is down. Just pick the highest damage move each turn, and you're good? How is this as difficult as the description claimed? Though I'm surprised, the battle details are pretty well done. The Pokémon have proper animations when using moves, and their sprites stay in motion, not stiff at all. True, the art team really delivered. I think the gameplay team should bow down to the artists. They didn't know, like Cynthia did, that this game was developed by one person alone. They assumed it was made by a studio or major company. After all, looking at the quality in certain areas so far, it definitely didn't seem like something one person could create. As the battle ended, Cynthia's character returned to the town's research lab with Professor Birch. As a reward for helping him, Birch gave Trico to Cynthia as her starter Pokémon. Her rival, the black-haired boy, chose Torchic as his starter, and the moment he got the Pokeball, his competitive streak kicked in hard. He immediately demanded a Pokémon battle with Cynthia. This battle was just as easy as the previous one. Torchic was even a level lower than Trico, and Cynthia defeated it with ease. The rival left, and Professor Birch told her to head north to find him on the upper route, saying he had forgotten to give him something before he ran off. He also handed her 5 Pokeballs. Cynthia obediently set off with Trico. Before leaving, she opened the player menu to check her Pokémon status in her bag, getting a sense of how this game differed from others. With abilities and types fully recreated, Pokémon stats were displayed numerically. Her Trico's most outstanding stats were speed and special attack, several points higher than the other stats. This made Cynthia raise an eyebrow. She'd expected this game to do poorly at recreating real Pokémon, but the situation before her was surprisingly good. Though she'd never trained a Sceptile before, she clearly knew that Trico, being a starter Pokémon, was characterized by high speed and special attack. Obviously, the game developer had recreated this accurately. So could she deduce that every Pokémon's data in the game was properly recreated? As soon as this thought emerged, Cynthia dismissed it. Probably not. Trico's information was easy to find online and well known, so getting it right didn't prove much. Other obscure, uncommon Pokémon would be nearly impossible for the developer to recreate without access to a proper database. Still, managing this level of accuracy showed the creator put real effort into it. After checking her Pokémon's info, Cynthia followed the game's guidance northward, passing through a small town to reach the northernmost patch of tall grass. Along the way, she encountered many wild Pokémon in the grass and battled them all. The battles were easy, and Trico's level rose smoothly from the initial 5 to 8, improving its stats while learning a new move, Quick Attack. After talking to the black-haired boy, he claimed his Pokémon was now completely different and demanded another battle. The chat burst out laughing. This guy's pretty nice, he's basically a walking experience pack. It's been like 2 minutes and he's already rushing back to donate more EXP. Good guy living a good life, may all his good deeds be rewarded. Amid the chat's cheerful laughter, Cynthia entered the battle. However, 2 seconds later, she realized how serious the situation was. Because her opponent sent out the same Torchic as before. But, its level was actually one higher than Trico's, reaching level 9. Cynthia suddenly had a bad feeling. Level 8 vs level 9. Could she actually lose this? No, that couldn't be right. This was clearly just part of the tutorial quest flow. Level 9 was probably just for show. This black-haired boy she'd named should be like a tutorial guide, just there to teach her some basics. Thinking this, she had Trico use quick attack. Trico charged forward at high speed, twisted its body, and brought its tail down hard. Torchique's HP bar dropped by less than a third. And then, Torchique opened its mouth and spat out a burst of flame. Torchique used Ember. It's super effective. Trico's HP bar plummeted like a roller coaster, instantly dropping below half and flashing yellow. Cynthia had anticipated that with a 1-level advantage, Torchique's type-effective move would deal heavy damage to Trico. But she hadn't expected one hit to take half of Trico's health. At that moment, she remembered passing through that town earlier and entering a blue building. It seemed to be an item shop, and she'd casually bought a potion that could restore Pokémon health. She quickly opened her bag and used the potion on Trico. Purple mist sprayed out, and Trico's HP bar instantly filled back up. But before she could breathe easy, Torchique attacked again, flames shooting from its mouth and instantly knocking Trico's HP back below half. At this moment, Cynthia realized that, unlike other games, using healing items also counted as using up her turn. So now this situation was basically unsolvable. Whether Trico used Pound or its newly learned quick attack, it could only take down less than 1/3 of Torchique's HP. But Torchique only needed 2 Ember attacks to knock Trico out. That potion had only delayed her loss, not solved the fundamental problem. What now? It seemed like no matter how she played, she was going to lose. Faced with this situation, her champion-level battle instincts kicked in, and Cynthia quickly calmed down to think of a way out. But seconds later, a prompt suddenly appeared on screen. Since you didn't give your Pokémon a command in time, your opponent attacked first. Torchique used Ember. It's super effective. Crimson flames erupted, Trico was hit, the screen shook violently, and its HP bar emptied instantly. 2 Embers, with type advantage, had one-shot Trico. Trico fainted. You have no more Pokémon left. Strawberry Ice Cream's vision went dark. With the prompt appearing, the game screen went black. Cynthia sat stunned in front of her computer. Then the screen switched, and her character reappeared in the town's Pokémon Center. The difference was that the money in the upper right corner had been completely zeroed out. At this moment, the chat exploded with activity. Wait, what? This is really just a tutorial NPC, not some elite enemy. Even with type advantage and being 1 level higher, getting 2-shot is way too extreme. Bro said he wanted to spar, I thought he was here to donate EXP, turns out he was here to throw hands for real. No wonder they made the streamer pick her Pokémon first, they were waiting for this. Deliberately picking a type-effective counter, that's so dirty. Quick, call your invincible Garcomp for help, Cynthia. Wait, guys, that was over 1,000 yen. Why does Pokémon battling come with mugging? Did Team Rocket show up? As the chat flew by, Cynthia snapped out of her daze. Now she understood why the description mentioned this game's extreme difficulty. All the other games she'd played, even Battle Road's PvE mode, had one core principle: fun. Players could easily outpower NPCs, especially early on. As the game progressed to the mid and late stages, NPC difficulty would gradually increase, but players could always overcome them. But this game's NPCs were clearly playing fair competition from the tutorial village. No, it was actually unfair competition with type advantage and a level advantage, it was just unfair to the player. And if players took too long thinking during their turn, the game would skip their turn entirely. All of this could only be described with one word: hardcore. But facing this situation, Cynthia didn't feel discouraged at all. Instead, something ignited in her heart, and her interest surged. As a champion who'd been through countless trials, she knew clearly that only challenges and difficulties could make someone grow the fastest. If everything were smooth sailing, neither trainers nor Pokémon could unleash their true power, even if they reached a high level of strength. At her current level, few challenges could stop her anymore, but this game had given her such an opportunity again. Taking a soft breath, Cynthia quickly adjusted her mindset and made a decision. Since that NPC was 1 level higher than her, she'd first go train Trico in the nearby grass and see if it could learn some new moves. When facing an opponent you can't beat head-on, the best strategy is to get stronger first, then face them again. With this thought, Cynthia moved her character out of the Pokémon Center and began constantly seeking out wild Pokémon battles in the nearby grass. Rattata, Poochyena, Pidgey, Wurmple. She battled every Pokémon that could spawn in the nearby grass. 10 minutes later, when a Poochyena fell, Trico finally reached level 12. A notification popped up. Your current Pokémon level has reached the stage limit, 12. You need to reach the next city before further improvement is possible. The chat started discussing. There's actually a level cap. I think it's reasonable. Otherwise, you could just camp in the tutorial village, grind to level 50 to 60, become the newbie village demon lord, and steamroll everything. That'd be boring. +1. Now at level 12, beating that level 9 Torchic should be no problem, right? I think so. With a 3-level advantage, she should be able to tank at least 4 embers, right? Plenty of room to work with. For sure. If she loses this, I'll eat my words. Meanwhile, Cynthia had already healed Trico at the Pokémon Center and returned to the northernmost grass patch, choosing to talk to her rival. The black-haired boy paused, then smiled. Hey? Looks like you've made some real progress. But I'm no slouch either, I definitely won't fall behind. Since our eyes met, let's battle. At this moment, Cynthia stared at the screen with serious, focused eyes. Now, Trico was level 12 and had learned 2 new moves, Mega Drain and Detect. This time, she would definitely win. The stirring battle music played again, and a notification appeared. Rival, black-haired boy wants to battle. He threw his Pokeball, white light flashed, and the same Torchic appeared. Everything seemed exactly like before. But there was one thing different from the previous situation. The number in Torchic's level display. LV.13. Cynthia? Stream viewers? Wait, bro, when the player levels up, you level up too? Are you serious? Chapter 5, Stuck A&D. Echoing screams. With the level advantage once again, this battle's outcome was naturally no different. Trico was directly defeated by Torchic's 2 embers. In fact, since both Pokémon had leveled up, this time Torchic's single ember took away 2/3 of Trico's HP, even more extreme than before. Watching the computer screen go black again, her character reappearing in the Pokémon Center, and the money counter in the upper right turning to -1,000 yen. In Cynthia's stream, viewers started spamming the chat again. Holy crap, now I get what that guy meant when he said definitely won't fall behind, turns out he's always one level higher than the player. This game developer is such a troll, how can they make NPCs level up with the player? Ha 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 ha, the money went to -1,000, now the streamer's completely bankrupt. As the chat exploded, Cynthia paid no attention to it. At this moment, she had entered deep contemplation. Obviously, the game developer had anticipated the player's possible responses and completely blocked off the path to winning through leveling up. In that case, she'd have to solve this opponent through other means. The biggest problem that Trico faced was the type disadvantage. The massive damage from double effectiveness was completely unbearable for Trico's frail body. And to solve type disadvantage. Thinking this, Cynthia's eyes suddenly lit up. Wait, when she left, didn't Professor Birch give her 5 Pokeballs? She just needed to use those Pokeballs to catch a Pokemon in the nearby grass that could counter Torchic, wouldn't that solve the problem? But having said that, Pokemon obviously couldn't be caught willy-nilly. During her gameplay, she'd already checked the bag interface and learned some rule hints. Players not only had level caps in each region, but also limits on how many Pokemon they could hold simultaneously. For example, right now, her Pokemon limit was 2. The game's maximum Pokemon limit could only reach 15. Moreover, once you obtained a Pokemon, there was no way to release it, you had to keep that Pokemon until the game was completed. For a game, such requirements were indeed quite hardcore. However, such rules made Cynthia feel somewhat approving. Even in a game, these Pokemon were companions fighting alongside you, not data to be casually discarded after use. That said, under these circumstances, she had to carefully plan each Pokemon's position in her team. She needed to ensure the next Pokemon she caught could play an important role in future adventures while also helping her pass her rival's test. Cynthia began quickly recalling all the Pokemon she'd encountered along the way. But just then, a sudden ringtone interrupted her thoughts. Her phone on the computer desk was ringing. She picked up the phone, glanced at the contact name on the screen, and immediately answered. A voice only she could hear came through the phone. Miss Cynthia, sorry, I know you're on vacation, but the Pokémon in the distortion world just started getting agitated again for some reason. We suspect a new spirit tide will appear, and the distortion world entrance in Veilstone City needs your support. Hearing this, Cynthia's expression changed slightly, and she nodded. All right, understood. I'll head over right away. Then she turned to address her stream viewers with an apologetic tone. Sorry, everyone, I have some matters to handle, so today's stream ends here. But when I'm free, I'll be back streaming as soon as possible. Please wait patiently. After saying this, she directly cut the stream signal. On the black screen, chat messages appeared. No honey. Right when it was getting good. Probably some league business. I think so too. I heard the distortion world situation hasn't been peaceful lately, and it might be related to that. No choice, gotta wait for the streamer to come back. Dispersing. Some viewers in the stream had already left to watch other streamers, but just then, one comment woke everyone up. Brothers, I'm gonna go buy this game and try it. Oh crap, right, we can play it too. Looks pretty fun, let's go for it. A batch of people, through Cynthia's stream, had developed a strong interest in Pokémon Emerald and went straight to buy and play the game. With such high quality and looking so novel, they naturally didn't mind spending money to try it out. But another group expressed different opinions. Those planning to buy must be really rich. 5,927 yen is too expensive, I'll wait and see. True, I don't even have that much for weekly living expenses, can't afford it at all. 5,927 yen for a pixel game, though it looks pretty good so far, what if it gets worse later? I'm not rushing to buy. As the last comment said, 5,927 yen was indeed quite high for ordinary people, buying a pixel game required serious consideration. But even so, after Cynthia's stream, Pokémon Emerald sales had quietly begun soaring. After all, even though it was a weekday, over 200,000 people watched her stream. If even 1% of viewers were willing to buy the game, that was still 2,000 sales. Meanwhile, above Twin Leaf Town, beneath the clouds, a deep blue figure streaked across the sky like lightning, rushing into the distance. It was a dragon-type Pokémon with a bipedal, shark-like appearance, possessing a streamlined yet powerful body, Garchomp. Its body was like deep blue armor, with red stripes across its abdomen and golden scales covering its legs, resembling a fully armed ancient warrior, radiating a powerful aura and pressure. If you looked carefully, you could see someone sitting on this Garchomp's back. That person was none other than Cynthia. According to League regulations, to avoid accidents, using Pokémon to carry humans for flight was prohibited in city airspace, but as champion, she naturally had such privileges. Moreover, she truly had urgent business to handle. At this moment, Cynthia gazed at the distant sky, seemingly pondering something. She was about to face some dangerous Pokémon, but right now she was thinking about that game. Because those Distortion World Pokémon weren't really dangerous to her, but that game had genuinely stumped her. The game's NPCs actually leveled up with her? And if even the first checkpoint in the tutorial village was this challenging, how strong would the opponents this game prepared for her later be? Thinking this, Cynthia couldn't help feeling more anticipation. She hadn't encountered such a sense of challenge in who knows how long. Speaking of which, she was becoming increasingly interested in that game's creator. Unfortunately, she currently had no way to contact them. Otherwise, she'd definitely want to get to know such an interesting creator properly. At the same time, she realized a problem. Given this game's quality, popularity was just a matter of time, and if someone finished the game before her and got the creator's contact information, that would be troublesome. Quick victory in the distortion world, then hurry back to complete the game. Cynthia made her decision internally. Just then, her phone rang again. Unlike usual, the screen showed no number or contact name, but displayed a string of garbled characters. However, seeing this garbled text, Cynthia first froze, then showed delight, immediately answering the call. From the other end, a somewhat lazy voice came. Hello, Cynthia sis, long time no see, did you miss me? Cynthia still seemed somewhat surprised. You got out so quickly this time. What, Don't want me out. The voice joked. This time was indeed smoother. The weird creatures in this black hole were fewer, so we came out early after handling them. Ah, so nice, I thought it'd take at least 2 months. Hearing this, Cynthia immediately said. Perfect timing. Can you help me find someone? The voice immediately perked up with interest. Oh? Who caught our Sinnoh champion's attention? League fugitive? Dark underworld figure? Or some mad scientist who went down the wrong path? Cynthia denied. None of those. I'm looking for a game developer. At this, the phone went silent. After a while, he spoke helplessly. Cynthia sis, you should know my database and hacking skills shouldn't be used to find game developers to send them death threats, right? Cynthia realized her words were inappropriate and quickly added. It's like this, he might have information clues about Rayquaza. I don't know if he's an individual developer or a studio, though I think the latter is more likely, so I want you to help me investigate. The voice immediately agreed. Ah, you should have said so earlier. All right, I'll help you look into it. Cynthia said sincerely. Thank you, I'll treat you to dinner later. The voice chuckled. Thanks aren't necessary, we go way back, life and death friendship and all. But I'll still take that dinner, that steakhouse at Canalave City Docks, you're paying. Hanging up now, I'll contact you if there's news. The call ended. Hearing the dial tone, Cynthia also put down her phone and sighed in relief. With this person's help, finding that developer shouldn't be a problem. But one thing at a time. She still had to play the game. She'd take first place. Garcomp, accelerate. Roar. A pale blue light with a sonic boom flashed by and vanished into the horizon. 6 hours later. Kanto region, Viridian City. Slept so well. Kairos opened his eyes in his rental apartment, sat up, and stretched comfortably. He instinctively opened his phone to check the time. Instead, he was stunned by the crazy stream of notifications on his screen. Joy Gaming Platform reminds you, your game Pokémon Emerald sold 1,823 copies today. This number was still constantly increasing. Seeing this, Kairos was completely dumbfounded. Hey? It hasn't even been a full day since release. How did it sell so much? When he finished making the game and before uploading, he needed to set a sale price. Initially, he wanted to price it cheaply, since this was his first game and still a test version. He wasn't looking for profit, mainly wanting to harvest more emotion points and build reputation. But the system prompted him that the minimum price had to be 5,927 yen. Kairos was stunned then, since 5,927 yen was already quite expensive, a level where many players might not buy it even if they liked it. But no matter what he said, the system insisted on this price, saying something about you get what you pay for. Kairos could only reluctantly compromise and price it at 5,927 yen. With this launch price, he'd mentally prepared himself before sleeping that he might wake up to 0 sales. But now, looking at the sales number about to break 2,000, Kairos was completely confused. What's going on? Are players in this world really this wealthy? As he puzzled over this, another golden notification suddenly appeared before his eyes. Ding! While the host was sleeping, you gained a large amount of emotion points from disdain, shock, anticipation, joy, totaling 720 points. Including points from livestream viewers, 320 points. Points from game purchasers, 100 points. Surprise and anticipation points from important character Sinnoh champion Cynthia, 300 points. Cynthia, livestream? Kairos immediately understood. No wonder he woke up to such high sales. Turns out Cynthia streamed his game. That explained everything. But what's with his game? How did Cynthia notice it? The Sinnoh region champion actually plays games in her spare time? Kairos pondered for a moment, then shook his head slightly. Whatever, he'd investigate that later. Regardless, this was undoubtedly a great start. From the sales and emotional point of feedback, Emerald's content had clearly initially attracted the stream's audience, including Cynthia herself. Now, let's see what new game development modules these points could be exchanged for, to further improve the game. He still had many ideas that he hadn't implemented yet due to insufficient modules. Just as Kairos was about to open the system panel, he suddenly felt an eerie cold wind, along with something, attacking from behind. Hair standing on end and blood running cold, Kairos quickly turned around. But saw nothing. Hey? Am I still groggy from sleep? Scratching his head, Kairos muttered to himself in confusion. I'll wash my face in a bit. However, the next moment, when he turned around, he came face to face with a pair of dark green little eyes. And a ghostly pale blue candle flame was burning eerily. In the rental apartment, an explosive scream rang out, echoing endlessly. Holy crap, it's a ghost! Chapter 6, The Burning Ember. In this world, Pokémon had long been part of people's daily lives, their figures visible in every corner of the city. Harmonious coexistence between humans and Pokémon wasn't just an empty slogan, but a reality that had truly been achieved. During the week since Kairos had arrived in this world, he'd seen plenty of Pokémon, whether it was Meowth grooming itself on street corners, Eevee being carried by girls on outings, or Pidgey dancing in the sky. He'd grown accustomed to it all. However, the problem was that during this week, aside from a few rare outings, he'd basically been holed up in his room, focused on making games. After all, rent was due soon, and if he couldn't scrape together the money, the landlord would toss him out. So during this week, he hadn't had any close contact with Pokémon. But now, he had. And this contact came completely out of nowhere. After instinctively jumping back 2 steps from the shock, Kairos calmed down a bit and carefully observed the Pokémon before him. Candle-like appearance, deep blue flame. This was actually a Litwick, and in shiny form, no less. Why would such a ghost-type Pokémon appear in his room? Kairos immediately tensed up again. Ghost-type Pokémon were extremely special beings, very rare in cities, and mostly found in remote wilderness areas because they were almost all fed by devouring the energy of other living creatures. Extremely dangerous. Litwick was one of them. According to his memory, though these Pokémon looked cute, they would silently devour human souls. In other words, if he wasn't careful, his soul could be absorbed by this little guy. At this moment, Kairos stared intently at Litwick, and Litwick looked back at him. One human and one Pokémon, eyes locked. The air fell silent. As Kairos stepped back bit by bit, he noticed that the Litwick before him didn't seem to make any moves. Besides that, even being this close, he didn't feel any physical discomfort. So, this little guy isn't eating me? Kairos thought carefully. This Litwick probably hadn't just arrived in his room, since during his sleep, he'd vaguely felt a bit cold. It was summer now, so that shouldn't normally happen, meaning this guy had been here for a while already. But after waking up, he felt refreshed and energetic, not at all like someone whose soul had been absorbed. Looking at Litwick again, the flame on its head was flickering weakly, as if it might go out at any moment. How could it be in this state after feasting on a soul? Considering the current situation, maybe this little guy actually had no ill intent toward him? Hello. Kairos tentatively waved and greeted. Litwick glanced at him and responded with a soft cry. But Kairos found he couldn't understand at all. What does it mean? Litwick called out again, voice somewhat urgent, the flame on its head twisting like an arrow pointing toward its own body. From a human perspective, that position, roughly the stomach? Kairos immediately had a guess and asked tentatively. Are you hungry? Litwick nodded vigorously. Wait here for me, stay right there, don't move. I'll get you food right away. After saying this, Kairos immediately turned and rushed out of the room. Litwick stood there, tilting its head, green eyes watching the direction Kairos had gone, looking somewhat confused. Human, left? But he said there would be food. Food, that's good. So hungry. But definitely can't eat the human. Humans would feel bad. In a world full of Pokémon and trainers, Pokémon-related industries were naturally quite developed. Though Kairos lived in a remote area of Viridian City, there was still a Pokémon goods shop downstairs. Withdrawing the money from selling 2,000 copies of his game from the platform, he walked straight into the shop and picked the most expensive ghost-type Pokémon food. This food was specially made by breeders for ghost-type Pokémon, considering their unique need for souls, and carefully formulated with special energy to provide corresponding supplementation. Though it couldn't match the effect of ghost-type Pokémon directly absorbing souls, it could satisfy their basic needs. After all, as a trainer, you couldn't really let ghost-type Pokémon go around absorbing people's souls, right? That would make you like an evil cultivator running around with soul-collecting banners. You'd get arrested by the League. After buying the food, Kairos hurried back home and placed the container in front of Litwick. Sorry for the wait, eat up. Litwick poked its head out, curiously sniffing the black food in the container, and its eyes immediately brightened. Lit. The next moment, it buried its head right in. The food in the container began disappearing at a visible rate. This eating speed startled Kairos. Good lord, how many days had it been starving to eat this quickly? After a full half container of food disappeared, Litwick finally stopped. The flame on its head was much more vigorous than before. Lit. It made a satisfied sound, squinting its eyes, looking at Kairos with warmth and gratitude. Good that you're full, don't mention it. Kairos smiled, feeling relieved. Good thing this expensive food was worth it though. One container cost over 2,000 yen, at least Litwick liked eating it, that was enough. But come to think of it, he actually couldn't understand Pokémon speech? Based on the original series, Pokémon could understand human speech, and while humans couldn't directly comprehend the detailed content of Pokémon language, they could at least get the general idea. When the relationship between trainer and Pokémon became close, this barrier would completely disappear, allowing perfect communication. But when he just heard Litwick speak, he couldn't understand at all and could only guess purely on his own. This was really quite troublesome. Just as Kairos was pondering, a golden notification suddenly appeared before his eyes. Detected that the host has Pokémon language needs. Recommended for you, Pokémon Language Translation Module, Basic. After unlocking this module, you can understand any Pokémon's language, while accurately recreating Pokémon calls and language in games to match reality. Unlocking this module requires 100 emotion points. Looking at this information, Kairos's eyes immediately lit up. With this thing, he could understand what Litwick was saying. Not only that, but after unlocking this module, it would also be useful for future game development. This effect of perfectly recreating Pokémon calls and language could add considerable realism to games. He could even immediately add this feature to Emerald. And this module wasn't expensive either, just 100 emotion points. He had over 600 points now. With this thought, Kairos didn't hesitate to purchase it. Purchase successful, module activated, host's remaining emotion points, 562. After scanning the notification, Kairos looked at Litwick again and asked. Are you full? Lit. Full. Thank you, human. Litwick nodded in response, and Kairos could now clearly understand the meaning in its cries. But this speech pattern, why did it feel so familiar? Kairos paused, then asked again. How long have you been in my room? Lit. Very long. Human always played with big metal thing. I waited for you to sleep, so I could eat you. This made Kairos feel somewhat chilled. Though he knew Litwick meant souls, it still sounded pretty scary. He steadied himself and continued asking. Then why didn't you eat me in the end? This time, Litwick didn't answer immediately, but thought for a moment. Lit. Because, human would feel bad. I don't want human to feel bad. Kairos was stunned. Holy crap! What was this? Had he pulled an SSR legendary good ghost? Just like stray luxury cats had the saying hesitate and it's gone, wild Pokémon also had hesitate and it's gone. Kairos immediately made his decision, extending a hand toward Litwick. In that case, how about following me from now on? I'll take care of all your food, so you won't go hungry and won't have to worry about absorbing others' souls and making them uncomfortable. Ghost-type Pokémon absorbing souls wasn't just instinct, but also how they replenished their body's energy. But if their internal energy was kept fully replenished through other means, why would they need to eat souls? Unless they were naturally vicious ghost-type Pokémon who enjoyed devouring souls for pleasure. But obviously, the Litwick before him wasn't that type. Hearing this, its eyes immediately brightened, nodding repeatedly while happily bouncing around Kairos. Lit. Human is so good. Thank you, human. Kairos smiled and reached out to pick up Litwick. Then please take care of me from now on, Litwick. Lit. Unexpectedly, despite being a ghost-type Pokémon with an ethereal spirit body, Litwick felt like a soft, jelly-like mass, very comfortable. And holding it didn't feel cold at all, but actually made him feel quite warm. Warm was warm, but why was it suddenly getting hot? Kairos instinctively looked down. Oh, I was wondering what was happening, turns out my clothes had caught fire. Wait! Caught fire? The next instant, screams echoed through the rental apartment again. It's on fire! 5 minutes later. Kairos dumped a pile of ashes into the trash can, having changed into an old shirt full of patches, sighing slightly. He'd forgotten that Litwick was also a fire-type Pokémon. That flame on its head wasn't just decoration. Looks like if he wanted to hold Litwick in the future, he'd need to buy some fireproof clothing. He'd also need Litwick to be more careful normally, or the house would really catch fire sooner or later. Turning around, he found Litwick had already fallen asleep against the wall. While sleeping, the flame on its head had dimmed considerably, leaving just a small point. Must be tired. Kairos thought about it and decided not to disturb him. Originally, he wanted to ask where Litwick came from, but now he should let the little guy rest properly. As for himself, he sat back down at his computer desk. The software showed that Pokémon Emerald sales had reached 2,125 copies, successfully breaking the 2,000 milestone. But this number had been stuck here for several minutes without continuing to grow. Kairos wasn't surprised. From the system's hints, Cynthia's stream should have ended, since he wasn't receiving large amounts of emotion points, just some scattered income. This should be from those 2,000 plus players who bought and were playing the game. Over 2,000 copies sold, minus platform fees, netted him just over 450,000 yen. The money shortage problem was naturally resolved. But from the moment he got the system, Kairos's goal in making games wasn't just about money. He wanted everyone in this world to experience the joy that Pokémon games could bring. Well, of course, torment was also a kind of joy, pain and pleasure combined. Collecting his thoughts, Kairos began considering his current situation. The first priority was definitely completing Pokémon Emerald and officially releasing it. He had many ideas that couldn't be realized with the current system's basic module technology. He opened the system panel and checked the module interface. Just the basic quality modules alone were quite numerous, stretching endlessly at first glance. Like card game module and roguelike game module, which increased production speed and quality for specific game types. Or Ultra HD Blu-ray graphics module and top professional music module, which enhanced games presentation and overall quality. These modules all cost around 300 points each, and with Kairos's current situation, buying two wouldn't be a problem after waiting a bit. But his gaze unhesitatingly fell on one particular module. AI Module, Basic. Description: can add individually responsive advanced artificial intelligence to NPCs, Pokémon, and all units in your games, allowing them to make intelligent decisions based on actual situations. Price: 500 points. This module's price far exceeded other basic ones, but Kairos's gaze was fixed on it. What was most important when making Pokémon games in the Pokémon world? Authenticity. Only by letting players feel they'd entered a real world could they immerse themselves. Those Pokémon and NPCs shouldn't seem like data that could only make mechanical responses, but more like living beings. Games are, though, essentially virtual by nature. But good games could make you forget this while playing, as if you'd truly entered another world. This was gaming's greatest charm. When playing Pokémon handheld games in his previous life, Kairos had some regrets. He regretted not being able to truly interact and chat with those Pokémon companions, to feel their joys and sorrows, to live alongside them. Even after crossing into the Pokémon world, he discovered it was actually quite realistic here, too. Not everyone had the conditions to become a trainer, traveling with Pokémon and climbing peaks. This required not just time and money, but courage and talent. For ordinary people, even living in the city with one Pokémon was already quite good. More people could only spend their lives in fixed cities, doing fixed jobs, barely supporting themselves and their families, let alone taking on the expenses of more Pokémon. Even if these people loved Pokémon as children, they'd eventually have their edges worn down by life's pressures, gradually losing themselves in cold cities. So every game Kairos made going forward had to give all people who loved Pokémon a chance. Maybe a chance to experience growing and battling alongside Pokémon, reaching the world's peak. Or perhaps a chance to live, bond, and become friends with Pokémon. Or maybe a chance to travel with Pokémon and witness the world's wonders and diversity. He believed these individual chances were like little flames. Someday, these flames would ignite the entire world. They would make everyone remember what they truly loved deep in their hearts. Chapter 7, First Update, Iono's Special Activity. A few seconds later, Kairos's excitement finally calmed down a bit. Having plans and goals was important, but for his current self, achieving those goals required taking steady, deliberate steps forward one at a time. He quickly assessed his current situation. Pokémon Emerald had already been successfully released. Though it was just a test version, it was currently his most important game, as well as his starting point. How quickly he could accumulate popularity and reputation, and increase his player base, depended on this game. Pokémon Emerald had been published on a special website called New Game Festival, operated by the League. All newly developed games from the first half of this year will join this website to compete over a 4-month period. The first place winner would receive the Golden Globe Award title and major official league promotion. Like the previously popular Angry Rocks, though it didn't participate in this new game festival, its rapid rise to internet fame also benefited from major league promotion. That game had participated in a league racing game competition and won the championship. So if he wanted to build his reputation and gain more emotion points, Pokémon Emerald had to win this new game festival championship. This was no simple task. On one hand, the competition had already been running for 3 months, with only 1 month left. Pokémon Emerald had just been created and officially launched, already behind others in terms of time. Not to mention, Dream Factory had already announced they would release a new game in this final month, making their grand entrance in the last 2 weeks. Some said this was for fairness, since if such a large company's game went online on the first day of the new game festival, it would absorb all the traffic, leaving other games with basically no chance. Others said this showed Dream Factory's confidence, believing that no one could compete with their games, even with just 2 weeks to attract players. Though they hadn't even released a trailer yet, everyone believed the final Golden Globe Award winner would definitely be Dream Factory. Though Dream Factory was lazy and had poor attitudes, their team strength and solid funding were undeniable. Their game quality naturally wasn't something small companies could compete with. Kairos knew clearly that if he wanted to build his reputation going forward, even if he didn't face them this time, he'd definitely have to confront Dream Factory head-on eventually. But honestly, he really didn't think Dream Factory could beat him. 1 month time was tight. But on his system panel, hundreds of high-tech modules were waiting for him to unlock. He glanced at the module panel, where there was one module he'd bookmarked. After receiving the system, he discovered he could currently only unlock intermediate and basic modules. Advanced ones were all locked. But even intermediate modules were already impressive. Intermediate module, Brain-Computer Interface, Virtual Reality Technology Module. Description: can mass-produce virtual reality experience devices and apply virtual reality technology to games, allowing players to personally experience game content while greatly accelerating VR game production speed and quality. Points required for purchase: 5,000 points. That's right, virtual reality was considered just an intermediate module in the system panel. Kairos didn't dare imagine what advanced modules would contain. Closing the panel, his thoughts returned to the new game festival competition. The Golden Globe Award was determined based on a game's comprehensive performance over the past months. Besides game popularity, player ratings, and gameplay, game completion was also very important. In other words, within this 1 month, Kairos not only needed to improve some content in Pokémon Emerald, but also had to fully finish developing the game. So now, it was time to advance the game's main storyline. With the system module's assistance, in just 1 night, he'd already written the underlying code and programming, while creating maps up to the first gym, Petalburg Gym's entrance. According to the plot, after successfully defeating their rival, players could officially begin their trainer journey and reach the nearest city, Petalburg City. But the gym in this city couldn't be battled initially, as it was the normal type gym run by the protagonist's father, Norman. Ranking later among all gym's players didn't yet have sufficient strength to challenge it. So, the first real gym battle actually took place in the next city, Rustboro City, at the rock-type gym run by Roxanne. In Ultimate Emerald, this marked the beginning of countless players' nightmares. Roxanne's several powerful Pokémon would teach every player who didn't know proper team building a painful lesson. When Kairos first played, he was successfully swept 3-0 by that Cradily, getting beaten so badly he questioned his existence. Kairos's plan was naturally to further develop this gym. Not only that, but the newly unlocked AI module should also come in handy. He took a deep breath, opened his desktop folder, and began operating rapidly. 1 day passed in a flash. The next morning, on a streaming platform called Bellibolt, numerous streaming rooms quietly went live. In this world, though entertainment industries like games and movies weren't very developed, many people had taken to watching streams to pass the time, making streaming platforms thrive. Bellibolt was one of the world's largest streaming platforms, comparable to the Seduct platform, even showing signs of overtaking it in recent years. At this moment, in a stream room called Bringing Everyone Joy with 10 million volts, a girl wearing yellow, pink, black, and blue clothes with cute fangs and pink hair stretched, showing the screen a bright, energetic smile. Ciao, good morning, everyone in the stream. Did you miss me? The next moment, chat messages instantly filled the screen. Iono. Iono. I'm here, baby. Missed you so much. What activity is today? Looking forward to it. Oh. Reborn as Bellibolt next life sent gift, heartfelt Rose X100. Iono only fan, sent gift, Super Sports Car X10. That's right, this stream room's owner was none other than Iono, the electric-type gym leader of Levancia City in the Paldea region. Unlike Cynthia, she could be called a professional streamer. Levancia Gym's explosive popularity largely came from her streaming promotion. On the entire Bellibolt platform, she was definitely a top streamer with incredible popularity. Having been live for less than a minute, the stream's viewership had already broken 500,000. At this moment, Iono smiled sweetly. Hehe, thank you all for your support and gifts. According to the original plan, we were supposed to do an outdoor hiking stream today. She turned to look out the window, where dark clouds were gathering clearly. Outdoor hiking was impossible. But this wasn't a problem for Iono. She'd become a super popular streamer for a reason. She was best at stirring up audience emotions. While streaming, if interaction with viewers wasn't meeting her expectations, she'd immediately adjust the stream's activity to heat up the atmosphere. She leaned close to the screen with a mysterious smile. Since today's weather isn't suitable for hiking, how about we do a special activity instead? Bellibolt, please bring me that thing. She gestured to a green-bodied Pokémon with a swollen brown belly beside her. This was the electric-type Pokémon Bellibolt, also one of Iono's best partners. Belly. Bellibolt swayed as it carried over a cardboard box and placed it on Iono's desk. Thanks. Iono picked up the box and shook it. Everyone. This box contains many interesting interactive game options. Next, I'll draw one from inside as today's special project activity. This cardboard box was an old friend in Iono's stream. Whenever she wasn't satisfied with stream interactions or something unexpected happened, she'd randomly draw a slip of paper from this box as the next activity for her viewers. Each interaction also included drawing a lucky viewer to specify the activity's content, like requesting a song for Iono to sing or watching a movie together. The stream atmosphere instantly heated up by Iono's actions, with viewers getting excited. Great! Another special activity. Will there be any new projects this time? Looking forward to it. Hope I get chosen. Then, I'm starting. She reached into the box, felt around a few times, pulled out a paper ball, and unfolded it in front of the screen. Fan recommended video games. It's the game request segment. Iono smiled and operated on the screen. The lucky viewer who matches my wavelength this time is E5763. I'm initiating connection. Chat appeared. Damn, why wasn't it me? Let's congratulate this B-tier user. The next moment, a viewer named Stardust connected to the stream. His voice was trembling, clearly very excited. Hi Iono, I've been your longtime fan for years. I never thought I'd actually connect with you. I want to say, you're really amazing. I love watching your streams. Iono smiled sweetly. Wow, such heartfelt praise. I'll definitely remember these words. It's because of support like yours that I can bring everyone better streams. So, Stardust-kun, today you can specify a game for me to play for everyone. What game would you like to request? The voice hesitated for several seconds, then quickly responded. About that, yesterday, my friend told me he saw a game in Cynthia's stream that seemed very interesting. Even Cynthia was playing it very seriously, completely addicted. It was called something like Pokémon Emerald. If possible, could you help me experience it, Iono? Hearing this, Iono was momentarily stunned. Pokémon Emerald? What a novel name! She was also pondering internally. A game Cynthia streamed? She naturally knew this champion had her own stream room, but from her impression, aside from Battle Road, Cynthia shouldn't really like playing games, right? This piqued her interest. She opened her browser and quickly found the Pokémon Emerald page on the new Game Festival website. The next moment, she was undoubtedly stunned. 5,927 yen? Pixel game? And it's still a test version? Stream chat also responded. Holy crap, bro, what game did you pick? A 5,927 yen pixel game? That's really confident. How does this look so unreliable? Are you sure your friend didn't trick you? Iono-chan, shouldn't we switch games? Even playing Angry Rocks would be better than this, right? Facing these comments, the connected viewer Stardust also seemed to hesitate. Iono, should we switch? I didn't expect this game to be so expensive. Just then, another batch of new comments emerged. Those who didn't watch yesterday's stream shouldn't talk nonsense. This game is way better than Angry Rocks, definitely worth the money. Exactly, I watched Cynthia's entire stream yesterday. She was so focused on this game that she forgot to interact with chat. I guarantee this game is absolutely fun. These comments were few, so they were quickly buried by the previous ones. Ha, no matter how you hype it, how good can a pixel game be? Selling for 5,927 yen, aren't you shills hired by this developer? Right, this kind of indie developer workshop game, still in test version, what good could it have? At least make your lies believable. Be careful when Cynthia finds out and comes after you. Seeing the chat atmosphere turning sour, Iono immediately made her decision, directly clicking to purchase the game and speaking. Though I see everyone's looking out for me and worried I'll get ripped off, I still hope everyone stays friendly and doesn't fight. As for this game, I believe this fan called Stardust also recommended it with good intentions. Besides, random game requests are within the rules anyway. Next, I'll be the poison tester for everyone. Let's see if this game is really worth the price, or if it's just after everyone's wallets. As she spoke, she clicked the download button while pondering internally. A few hundred MB pixel game, if it was worth this price, she couldn't even imagine what would make it worthy. From this perspective, her fan was probably deceived, right? But given the current situation, she had no choice but to play. While thinking, the game finished starting up. As a professional gamer, she directly followed the prompt and double-clicked X to skip the opening animation. But the next moment, a window suddenly popped up before her eyes. Update notice. Current game version, 0.1. Latest update content. 1. Added skip opening animation function. 2. Implemented full AI intelligence coverage for Pokémon and NPCs. Players can interact intelligently with them through voice commands and text input, while slightly increasing NPCs' battle command abilities. 3. Updated the main story map to the first gym city, Rustboro City. Players can now engage in their first gym battle. At this moment, Iono's gaze was fixed on the second line of information. Full AI coverage? Intelligent interaction? Impossible. Her reaction was understandable. Even Battle Road, with its hundreds of GBs of size and cutting-edge technology, had only achieved partial AI intelligence coverage and was still bug-ridden, claiming to be developing and improving with full effort. Now, a few hundred MB pixel game dared to claim full AI coverage. A thought inevitably arose in Iono's mind. Oh no! This game was probably really here to scam people for money, right? Chapter 8, Iono's Gaming Experience. Even though she had realized this, Iono knew there was no turning back. She'd already bought the game and made promises to her viewers, there was no way out now. She let out a quiet sigh and refocused on the game before her. Is it the classic WASD movement controls? Iono tested the key bindings and controlled her character to step out of the truck. The scene that appeared before her made her eyes widen slightly. She'd played plenty of pixel games before, but the graphics in this one were truly exquisite, you could honestly call them a work of art. The chat filled with amazed comments at that moment. The pixel art style is actually this good? Are you sure this is made by an indie developer? This looks better than most games in my library, no wonder this game costs so much. But if it's just pretty graphics, that doesn't mean much, right? After all, what matters most in a game is whether it's fun to play. Following the game's tutorial, Iono quickly completed the opening storyline, choosing a Pokémon from the grass above town to help Professor Birch defeat a Poochyena. After brief consideration, she chose Torchic. When she returned to the lab with Professor Birch, he offered to give her the starter Pokémon. Then, a notification popped up on Iono's screen. Notice: Smart Interaction feature unlocked. Players can press E to use voice commands or text input to interact. Any character or Pokémon in the game can be interacted with. Seeing this notification, Iono raised an eyebrow slightly. Oh? They're actually going for it. But honestly, that seems pretty unlikely. With a might as well try it and see attitude, she pressed E while facing Professor Birch and spoke into her microphone. Hello, Professor Birch. I'd like to have an electric-type Pokémon as my starter. Would that be possible? Iono didn't really expect this request to work out. Obviously, the Pokémon selection in this game was already predetermined, otherwise, why would they have just presented her with 3 starter options to choose from? However, what happened next caught her completely off guard. Professor Birch actually nodded and responded. Oh? You like electric-type Pokémon? You should have said so earlier. I actually have a special Pokémon here. But if you want to receive her, you'll need to tell me why you like electric-type Pokémon. Iono froze completely. Hey? There's actually AI. She thought it over and shook her head slightly. No. It must have triggered some keyword, right? Maybe the developer said electric-type Pokémon as a trigger phrase, causing Professor Birch to activate this dialogue. But even so, being able to pull off something like this meant the game's creator really put their heart into it. From what she could see so far, this game was performing way better than she'd expected. Meanwhile, the chat shared similar thoughts to Iono's. These are probably pre-programmed responses, right? If you prepare enough answers, it's basically AI light, haha. +1. But still, this isn't true AI coverage, this is false advertising. You could totally sue them for this. At the same time, facing the question Professor Birch had just asked in the game, Iono's expression suddenly became serious. Even though this was a virtual game, her love for electric-type Pokémon was real. She pressed E and answered word by word. Because I think electric-type Pokémon are full of enthusiasm, with lightning-fast speed and power. Being with them gives me endless energy. However, Professor Birch's next response came with the sound of applause. Excellent. I never expected you to have such passion for electric-type Pokémon. Actually, I feel the same way about electric types. And just between you and me, my favorite Pokémon is Pikachu. I think their lightning bolt-shaped tails are just too adorable to resist. At that moment, hearing the voice from the game, Iono suddenly realized something. Wait a minute. If these responses were also pre-programmed by the developer, then they'd have to be incredibly thorough. Plus, for some reason, during this conversation, she didn't feel like she was talking to a fake game NPC at all. It felt more like she was speaking with a real Pokémon professor. Could it be that these NPCs actually have autonomous consciousness? Her mind raced as she thought this through. The best way to verify this would be to ask a completely random question that had nothing to do with the game itself. A question the developer would never think to prepare for, and that ordinary pre-programmed answers couldn't handle. Having made up her mind, she immediately pressed E. Professor Birch, changing topics completely, do you think miso soup or curry rice tastes better? Could you tell me your reasoning? As soon as she said this, Professor Birch's expression in the game seemed to pause for a moment, followed by a somewhat puzzled voice. Hey? Why would you suddenly ask something like that? But if I had to answer, I'd say curry tastes better. And potatoes and carrots are essential ingredients. Also, I don't like adding chicken, I prefer beef. That's what makes the most fragrant curry. This response made Iono's eyes widen in shock. It's actually real. The NPCs in this game really have achieved AI coverage. There's no way they could answer her question like that otherwise. But how is this even possible? How could a pixel game that's only a few hundred megabytes pull off something like this? At the same time, viewers were starting to realize something was off, too. Holy crap, wait, this actually seems like real AI. Yeah, if these were preset answers and keywords, there's no way they could be this detailed. Damn, they're actually for real. Where's that person who said they'd sue for false advertising? Come out here. While Iono and the livestream viewers were all amazed, Professor Birch's voice in the game drew everyone's attention back. Alright, getting back to the point, since you want an electric-type Pokémon, I just thought about it, and there actually is a suitable starter in the lab. He moved to a machine and operated it briefly. A Pokeball marked with lightning was immediately transported over. Take a look at this little guy. Do you like what you see? Professor Birch opened the Pokeball, and in a flash of white light, a Pokémon covered in pale white wool like a sheep appeared before him. Though it was pixelated, it still looked incredibly lifelike and adorable. This was a Mariab, an electric-type Pokémon. Despite its cute appearance, all the wool on its body could store electricity, which it could discharge all at once when necessary. The moment Iono saw Mariab, her eyes lit up. This was a Pokémon she'd never trained or encountered before. I'll take him. Thank you, Professor. After leaving the lab with her starter Pokémon, Iono tried talking to several NPCs around town, which completely confirmed her earlier conclusion: this game had indeed achieved full AI coverage, even including the Pokémon. When Iono typed the command "pet the wool" on Mariab's head, her character in the game actually crouched down and began petting Mariab. Mariab closed its eyes and made happy sounds, enjoying Iono's petting. It even ran over to nuzzle her ankles, with heart symbols appearing above its head. The chat exploded again at this scene. Holy shit! This actually works? With this kind of interaction, what's the difference from reality? Didn't Dream Factory make a Pokémon interaction game before? I feel like this Emerald game's Pokémon interactions are even better than that one. Are we sure this is a pixel indie game? This level of freedom is insane. Having plenty of gaming experience, Iono naturally understood what this kind of game performance meant. She'd already made her judgment: this definitely wasn't an indie game from a small studio, but a game secretly created by a major gaming company on the scale of Dream Factory. Although she didn't know why they were being so secretive about it, she had to admit she was getting more and more excited about this game's content. Next, she spent a full 2 minutes at home petting the sheep, then left Little Root Town to begin her journey. Unlike Cynthia's previous playthrough, this time she didn't battle her rival at the top of the upper route. Instead, she simply went to find him and brought him back to get their Pokédexes from the professor together. By the way, Iono named her rival Banana King. Viewers in the live stream who had watched Cynthia's previous stream immediately sent questioning comments when they saw this. What's going on? I was waiting for this rival to show the streamer what real cruelty looks like, but suddenly they're not fighting. Exactly. Did they secretly patch this in an update? Damn, I was waiting for this. These viewers naturally looked forward to seeing the streamer struggle when hitting difficult parts. But they'd been eagerly waiting for Iono to face the rival again, and now Banana King wasn't even fighting her. Having received the Pokédex and running shoes from the professor, Iono opened her map and headed toward the next city, wearing a somewhat disappointed expression. Even though this game has turn-based combat, I think it's pretty interesting. I wonder when I'll get to battle a trainer. But just as she finished speaking, a grey-brown mist suddenly exploded from the grass around the corner ahead, completely obscuring the entire screen. 3 silhouettes gradually emerged from the mist. Hey? Is this some kind of Easter egg? Iono was curious for a moment. The next moment, uplifting and dynamic orchestral music suddenly rang in her ears. This was followed by a male voice. I think I just heard someone asking a question, didn't I? From the mist, a blue-haired man in uniform stepped forward, revealing himself with a rose in his mouth. Since you asked so sincerely. Following him, a red-haired woman strode forward, flipping her long hair with incredible flair. We'll be generous enough to answer you. Against a brilliant galactic background, the two figures danced alternately, like an epic theatrical performance. To protect the world from devastation. To unite all peoples within our nation. To denounce the evils of truth and love. To extend our reach to the stars above. Jesse. James. We're Team Rocket, blasting off through the galaxy. White hole, a white tomorrow awaits us. That's right, meow. A Meowth with a gold coin on its head popped out, showing a smug smile as it delivered the final line. At that moment, everyone in the live stream fell completely silent. Several seconds later, comments flooded the chat. What is this? Why do I feel like laughing but also kind of impressed? Wait, Team Rocket? Isn't that the huge criminal organization from Kanto? The one the League crushed 2 years ago and hasn't been heard from since. Are we sure this is Team Rocket? They seem more like comedians to me. Tisk tisk, this creator actually dared to use Team Rocket as NPCs. Should I say they're creative, or just really bold? No wonder everyone reacted this way. Although Team Rocket had kept a low profile in recent years under league pressure, they were still the world's largest criminal organization, bar none. In gaming history, no one had dared to put them in a game as villains, because without a doubt, this would be seen as a provocation to Team Rocket. Yet this game directly inserted 3 such characters, calling them Team Rocket members. Could these 3 really be considered Team Rocket members? Also, wasn't the company that made this game afraid of Team Rocket's retaliation? However, at that moment, Iono's attention was focused elsewhere. Her eyes lit up as if she'd seen some rare treasure. Wow! Did that Meowth just talk? As soon as she said this, the chat snapped back to attention. Oh yeah! That Meowth can talk! What's the big deal? It's just a game totally normal for Pokémon to talk in games. Exactly, it's not like there could really be a talking Meowth in real life, right? If there is, I'll eat my hat. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, in a dark underground warehouse. Achoo! A Meowth sitting on a couch suddenly sneezed violently. He wiped his face with his paw, looking pleased. Hey! Could it be that the boss finally remembered me, meow? Chapter 9, vs Team Rocket? Iono's team expectations. Viridian City. Inside a rental apartment. Kairos stared thoughtfully at the pile of new data displayed on his screen. Yesterday, while adding the gym storyline, he'd suddenly thought of another issue. The original Emerald Kaizo had offered quite a few starter Pokémon options. You could choose from any generation's starter trio without a problem. If you met certain Easter egg conditions, you could even pick 2. Since his current game was even more challenging than the original, naturally he needed to be more generous with the initial Pokémon selection. Combined with the newly launched voice system, he'd designed a simple Easter egg. If players expressed to Professor Birch that they wanted a starter of a different type, it would activate this feature, randomly giving them a non-pseudo-legendary, non-legendary Pokémon of that type from the Professor's collection. This Pokémon would have base stats no lower than 500, in some ways a good deal for players, since they could freely choose their preferred starting type instead of being forced to pick between water, fire, and grass. To maintain game balance, activating this Easter egg came with a price. Certain rival battles would be replaced with battles against the Team Rocket trio. That's right, those 3, Meowth, James, and Jessie. And Kairos wasn't designing Team Rocket to be pushovers. When players first headed to Petalburg City, they'd encounter the trio for the first time. Their Pokémon would be at the player's level, a Coughing and an Awakens, both with perfect IVs, maxed EVs, and the right held items. This battle difficulty would undoubtedly be more terrifying than any rival fight. As the game progressed, each encounter would make them even stronger. Kairos included them because he'd always felt this trio should possess such strength. With their abilities, if they just stopped chasing Ash's Pikachu, they'd succeed at whatever they tried. They could probably even steal Arceus's plates if they put their minds to it. Plus, they were some of his favorite characters from the original series, so why not slip in some personal favorites? As for whether Team Rocket actually existed in this world, well, that was a whole different matter. Meanwhile, in Iono's livestream, as chat buzzed with heated discussion about Team Rocket, the game's Jessie and James stepped forward, triggering the battle animation. Listen here, kid. Hand over all your Pokémon. Team Rocket trio wants to battle. With dramatic drums and a flash of white light, a Coughing appeared. It was level 11, same as Iono's Mariup. Same level, 2 Pokémon? This might be a bit tough. But since they're just NPC Pokémon, it shouldn't be too difficult, right? Iono glanced at the screen's corner display and muttered to herself, having Mariup use Thunder Shock. Lightning crashed down, and Coughing's HP bar instantly dropped by half. But before she could celebrate, Coughing spat out a glob of poison. Coughing used Sludge Bomb. Critical hit. Mariup's HP bar emptied completely. Iono? Hold up, what kind of damage is that? Even with a critical hit, that's way over the top. Since when could Coughing hit that hard? While she sat there stunned, Jessie and James reappeared on screen. Humph. You and your partner are too weak. The boss definitely wouldn't want Pokémon like these. See you later, kid. The screen went black. Iono is out of usable Pokémon. Everything went dark. Seconds later, watching Iono's character respawn at the Pokémon Center in Oldle Town, chat went absolutely wild. No way, these are Team Rocket grunts? Are you sure? Since when is coughing this strong? The streamer got rejected by the villain organization for being too weak, they wouldn't even steal her Pokémon. I'm dying. Iono snapped back to reality, finally understanding that this game's extremely high difficulty warning wasn't kidding around. But challenging games are what make things interesting. She immediately started strategizing. Coughing could one-shot Mariup because its move scored a critical hit. According to the game's description, critical hits seemed to be a random chance mechanism that dealt double damage, something that wouldn't happen every battle. In other words, normally Mariup should be able to tank 2 of Coughing's attacks. With first move advantage, Mariup could survive one Sludge Bomb, then finish off Coughing with a second Thunder Shock. But even so, Iono still faced another huge problem, the opponent had another Pokémon. A half-health Mariup obviously couldn't handle the next opponent. So, she needed to find a way to beat Coughing without taking damage. After thinking for a moment, Iono opened her bag and checked Mariup's info, quickly forming a plan. She had her character return to where she'd encountered Team Rocket. No dramatic music or announcements this time, straight into battle. Instead of Thunder Shock, she had Mariup use a different move, Thunder Wave. Electricity flashed, and Coughing's body sparked with current. An orange status icon appeared, it was paralyzed. Coughing wants to move, but it can't. After some twitching, its first turn passed without attacking. Iono's eyes lit up. Perfect. She explained to her stream audience, Thunder Wave paralyzes the target Pokémon, so I thought I'd try using it to restrict Coughing's movement. Looks like the developer thought of this too. Now that Coughing can't attack, Mariup can stay healthy while defeating it, then handle the second Pokémon. She looked confident. Chat was buzzing. Classic Iono, finding the solution right away. That's pretty broken, if Thunder Wave always hits first, isn't Mariup invincible? Kind of unbalanced, but it's just a turn-based game. Perfect balance is tough. While chat discussed, Iono confidently selected Thunder Shock, having Mariup attack. Electricity flashed again, and Coughing's HP dropped to half. Great. Just need to do that one more time. But just as she was getting excited, electricity flickered across Coughing's body without causing paralysis. The next moment, poison spewed from its mouth, hitting Mariup again. Coughing used Sludge Bomb. Critical hit. Mariup fainted. Iono is out of usable Pokémon. Everything went dark. Seeing this message, Iono froze completely. Wasn't Coughing already paralyzed? How could it still use moves? And why another critical hit? This thing's critical hit rate is way too high. After respawning at the Pokémon Center, instead of immediately re-challenge Team Rocket, Iono opened the menu to check the in-game tutorials. Sure enough, she quickly found the explanation for status conditions. Oh, so paralysis lowers the opponent's speed by half while giving them a chance to be unable to use moves. She had an aha moment. If status conditions worked that way, it made sense. Otherwise, paralyzing opponents who could never act again would be completely broken. She found herself impressed with the developer. Not only were the Pokémon abilities and moves faithfully recreated, but even these status conditions were reasonably implemented. That said, this battle would probably take several attempts to win. Understanding this, Iono restarted the Team Rocket battle. This time her luck was excellent. After being paralyzed, Coughing failed to act for 2 consecutive turns, easily defeated by 2 Thunder Shocks. Team Rocket's second Pokémon was an awakens. The moment it appeared, Mariup's body flashed red, accompanied by a game notification. Mariup's attack fell due to the opposing Pokémon's Intimidate. But seeing this, Iono breathed a sigh of relief, explaining to chat, great. This means awakens doesn't have shed skin, but Intimidate instead. If it had shed skin, that would be trouble, it would automatically cure paralysis due to its ability. But since Mariup is a special attacker anyway, losing physical attack doesn't matter. This should be easy. Looking supremely confident, Iono had Mariup use Thunder Wave to control awakens again. But the next moment, awakens struck first. Awakens used Crunch. Mariup flinched. It can't move. Watching Mariup's HP bar flash red. Iono. She clenched her fists. It's fine. Let's go again. After 7 or 8 failed attempts, Lady Luck finally smiled on Iono. In this battle, neither awakens nor Coughing landed critical hits. After both became paralyzed, neither successfully attacked once. Even so, when Mariup achieved victory, having only been hit once the entire fight, its HP bar showed just a sliver remaining. This showed just how difficult the battle truly was. After winning, Team Rocket retreated several steps. "Curse you, kid. Just you wait, we'll be back." "What a terrible feeling, meow." They threw out their parting words and disappeared into the distant grass. Iono let out a long sigh of relief. At the same time, she noticed a strange feeling welling up inside her. While this was technically still Pokémon battling, what she'd experienced in this game was completely different from the real world. This experience of understanding mechanics through repeated attempts, challenging the same fight over and over until success, that was something impossible to feel in real-world Pokémon battles. After all, in real Pokémon battles, you usually only get one shot. If you want to try again, you have to wait. Pokémon need considerable time to recover their strength and energy, but in games, after one failure, you can immediately regroup and try again. The feeling of finally succeeding through repeated attempts is often the most captivating. Iono was becoming more and more interested in this game. She didn't even realize that just this one NPC battle had already quietly drawn her in. After defeating Team Rocket, she continued toward the next city without hesitation. The following gameplay was straightforward, reaching Petalburg City, touring the gym run by the player's father, helping a boy named Hikari catch a Ralts as his starter, then leaving Petalburg for the forest above. This was a vast green jungle inhabited by numerous bug-type Pokémon. Before long, Iono encountered an Electrike. She immediately threw a Pokeball after the battle, successfully capturing it for her team. She then began addressing her stream audience with a smile. "Tada, Iono's Electric-type classroom is now in session. We all know Electric-type Pokémon have fast speed and strong attacks, but they also have weaknesses. Everyone knows Electric-type's biggest weakness is ground types. Electric moves are completely ineffective against ground-type Pokémon. Besides that, Grass, Rock, and Dragon types all pose significant challenges for electric Pokémon. Grass and Dragon types resist electric moves, while Rock types, though not resistant to electric attacks, commonly know ground-type moves that threaten electric Pokémon. This game's main quest should involve challenging different type gyms to collect badges before taking on the league. If we want to build a team specializing in electric Pokémon, we need to overcome these type disadvantages. Like this Joltik, it's also bug-type. When facing grass-type opponents, it won't struggle as much. Throughout the rest of the game, I'll build my team around this concept until we've covered all of electric-type's blind spots." Chat erupted in approval. Classic electric-type gym leader, the knowledge is definitely there. Yeah, even just playing games, she stays professional where it matters. Iono glanced at Chat and smiled. "I don't think we'll encounter Dragon-type gyms this early in the game. So, that leaves just Ground and Rock types. Surely the very first gym won't be one of those two attributes, right?" She stretched. "All right, let's keep going." Chapter 10, The streamers getting ready to log off. As Iono confidently resumed her journey, Chat buzzed with heated discussion. "Looks like the streamer should breeze through the first gym. Classic Iono, progressing faster than even Cynthia. Our girl is really stepping up. Hey now, Cynthia just had work obligations. If she were playing right now, she wouldn't be any slower than Iono." "Exactly. Just wait until Cynthia gets back and check her stream. She's the champion, no way a gym leader beats her at a game with actual battle mechanics." Deep in Petalburg Woods, the character triggered a story event. A Devon Corporation employee was being robbed by Team Aqua members who had stolen his package. Naturally, Iono's character stepped in to help, battling the Team Aqua grunt, successfully retrieving the package, and earning an Ultra Ball as a reward. After helping the Devon employee, instead of immediately leaving Petalburg Woods, Iono stayed to level up her Joltik and Mariup. Only after both Pokémon reached the current level cap of 15 did she leave the forest and enter the first gym city, Rustboro City. This was a thoroughly modern metropolis, with towering buildings and busy streets that made for quite a sight. The game's visuals beautifully captured the city's character, drawing amazed reactions from viewers. Iono headed to the Pokémon Center to quickly heal her team, then followed the map to find Rustboro Gym's entrance. Her face showed clear anticipation. As a gym leader herself in the real world, she was only used to others challenging her. Though this was just a game, it was still her first time challenging someone else's gym, a novel experience. "I'm ready. Time for an intense gym battle." She took a deep breath, eyes full of excitement. Considering how tough even the Team Rocket NPCs were in this game, this gym leader would surely be no ordinary opponent. The upcoming battle would probably be challenging. But that was exactly what excited her. With that thought, Iono had her character enter the gym. The first thing she saw was a signboard. Rustboro Gym. The sign displayed a large brown rock icon. So this was a rock-type gym? Could she really be this unlucky? She should never have jinxed herself earlier. Iono's eyes went wide. Chat went wild. Ha ha ha, it really is a rock gym. Love that quote from the streamer, with so many type possibilities, surely the first gym won't be rock or ground, right? LOL, I feel like this game was designed this way on purpose. With this game's style, maybe choosing different starter types changes the gym's type too. Reading chat, Iono took a deep breath and tried to pump herself up. Even if it's rock type, there's nothing to fear. At least it's not ground type. It's still early game, rock Pokemon shouldn't know many ground type moves. Plus, I've got 2 excellent electric Pokemon at the level cap. I believe they won't lose. With that, she had her character head deeper into the gym. A path stretched ahead across rocky terrain, leading to a raised platform. NPCs stood on both sides, waiting. The moment Iono approached, an exclamation point appeared over an NPC's head. You want to challenge Rustboro Gym? Let me see if you are worthy. Battle activated instantly. 3 minutes later, Iono had cleared all the gym's NPCs and reached the platform. What gave her a headache was that, despite being a rock gym, these trainers used 2 ground types, a Sandshrew and a Diglett. Fortunately, as preliminary gym trainers, their levels weren't particularly high, several levels behind her team. After a few close battles, she took them down. But this raised a new concern: if even the gym's regular trainers were this tough, wouldn't the rock-type gym leader's team be packed with ground types? This wasn't impossible. She'd heard that a certain Dragon-type Elite Four member from Kanto actually had more flying types than anything else on his team. However, when she started the battle with gym leader Roxanne, a girl with twin tails wearing a sharp business suit, Roxanne's opening words made her breathe a sigh of relief. The solid, powerful hearts of rock-type Pokemon, let me show you now. After saying something like that, it would be pretty rude to pull out ground types, right? The next moment, Roxanne threw her Pokeball, and white light flashed. A strange purple Pokemon with what looked like blooming lilies on its head appeared before Iono. Looking at it, she paused. As an electric-type gym leader from the Paldea region, she knew quite a lot about Pokemon. She could recognize most of them. But this was genuinely her first time seeing this one. She instinctively looked at the name display and read it aloud, Cradily. Looks like it should be a grass-type Pokemon. If so, you're up, Joltik. She decisively switched Pokemon, sending out Joltik. According to the game's rules, the first switch during a gym battle wouldn't consume a turn, faithfully recreating the real-world gym challenge rule where the leader sends out first, then the challenger chooses their response. Seeing this bizarre Pokemon, chat started buzzing again. Hey? What Pokemon is this? Never heard of it before. Did the developer create an original one? Who cares? If it's rock and grass, it shouldn't be too strong, and the streamer just trained Joltik. Bug beats grass, perfect timing. Iono had Joltik use the bug-type move Bug Bite. After a flash of dark green light, super effective, appeared. But contrary to her expectations, Cradly's HP bar only dropped a small amount. Iono's eyes widened again. That tanky? Immediately after, brilliant, mesmerizing light flew from Cradly's head, striking Joltik. Cradly used Confuse Ray. Joltik became confused. Even worse, a ring of deep blue light points appeared around Cradly before merging into its body. Due to holding leftovers, Cradly's HP was restored. Its barely touched HP bar instantly climbed back up. Iono? Being tanky was one thing, but it had passive healing too? What happened next was predictable. After Joltik became confused, it was demolished by Cradly. After all, Cradly had extremely high defenses, perfect EVs and IVs, and leftovers neither Joltik's Bug Bite nor Spark could break through. It healed more than it took damage. Not to mention, Joltik's confusion occasionally made it hit itself, adding insult to injury. In this situation, after Cradly finished off Joltik while maintaining full health, Mariup stood no chance either, quickly falling in defeat. After this battle, chat went wild. Haters speak up. A clean sweep. Oh, wait, sorry, the streamer got swept. My mistake. Who said the gym leaders in this game would be easy? That was pure bad luck, hahaha. First time I've seen a game NPC sweep a player's team with one Pokémon. Sure, the streamer only has 2, but this would be impossible on the battle road. This game is seriously hard. GG, this gym leader is broken. This thing is tanky as hell, plus has control and healing, who could possibly beat it? When Iono lost to Team Rocket's 3 NPCs earlier, it was at least a 1v2, so losing made sense. But now her 2 Pokémon had been swept by a single gym leader's Pokémon. While everyone marveled at the game's difficulty, Iono steadied herself and walked her character from the Pokémon Center to the gym entrance. As you can all see, viewers, this gym leader Roxanne is quite something. But no worries, I've already thought of a strategy. We're going back to our Thunder Wave tactics from before. Since this Cradily isn't ground or electric type, it can't be immune to paralysis. And judging by its bulk, it should be slow, so both Joltik and Mariup should outspeed it. So we just need to use Thunder Wave first, like we did against Coughing and Awakens, then pray for paralysis to trigger. Iono organized her thoughts and explained to chat. However, it seemed like the same old strategy, as the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Facing this game's extreme difficulty, she had to use every available resource. The leftovers item also reminded her that both her Pokémon could hold items, too. Unfortunately, she didn't have anything like that, but she had picked up some Oran berries on the roadside. According to the berry's description, when equipped on a Pokémon, it would automatically activate when HP dropped to a certain point, restoring some health. Though the recovery was minimal, it was better than nothing. After equipping both Pokémon with Oran berries, Iono re-entered the gym to challenge Roxanne again. This time, her plan worked perfectly. Joltik's Thunder Wave successfully paralyzed Cradily, preventing it from using Confuse Ray. Several turns passed with Cradily barely able to act. Even when it got off one Confuse Ray during consecutive paralysis triggers, it missed. With Joltik's spark hitting Cradily, its HP finally dropped below half, turning yellow. Great! Keep it up just like this! Iono's excited voice echoed through the stream. Chat started celebrating. Nice one, streamer! Holy crap, 4 paralysis procs in a row. Iono's luck is insane. Did she turn on cheats? Obviously, she turned something on her computer monitor. This looks promising. At least we can take down this Pokémon and see the gym leader's next one, right? Iono glanced at chat and confidently pressed the keys, selecting Spark again. Her battle with this Pokémon had shown it probably didn't have any moves that could seriously threaten Joltik, otherwise, it wouldn't keep alternating between Confuse Ray and Giga Drain. Based on its attack pattern, the next move should be Giga Drain. Even if it hit, due to Joltik's resistance to Grass-type moves, it would only deal minimal damage, and Cradily wouldn't recover much HP. If she could keep grinding with a few more paralysis triggers, Joltik should maintain about 2/3 of its HP going into the next Pokémon battle. As she calculated, Spark hit Cradily again, bringing its yellow HP down another notch. Next, paralysis effects flickered across Cradily's body, but it didn't twitch. Iono knew this meant paralysis didn't trigger. But she didn't care. Just as she had analyzed, Giga Drain couldn't turn the battle around. But then, something completely unexpected happened. Cradily suddenly raised its head, and a beam of white light descended, enveloping its body. What move is this? Iono froze, a bad feeling creeping over her. The game's notification appeared. Cradily used Synthesis. HP was restored. In the glow, Cradily's HP bar instantly climbed, returning to 2/3 full. Another notification. Cradily's held leftovers restored a little HP. Blue light points danced as its health recovered again. Looking at Cradily's nearly full HP bar, then at Joltik, whose move PP was almost depleted, Iono sat frozen at her screen. She suddenly felt like logging off. Chapter 11, New Modules and Planning. Meanwhile, in a shabby rental apartment in Viridian City, a series of notifications suddenly popped up before Kairos. Ding! Congratulations, host! You've gained 320 emotion points from the special individual Iono through emotions of shock, confusion, excitement, and satisfaction. Ding! Congratulations, host! You've gained 430 emotion points from various emotions of stream viewers and game purchasers. This time, you've gained a total of 750 emotion points. Current remaining balance, 923 points. Kairos was sitting at his computer, polishing some game details, when these sudden notifications startled him. Then it clicked right after Cynthia had finished streaming his game. Iono was playing it too? If he remembered correctly, Iono was a major streamer whose broadcasts had helped Levancia Gym flourish and become the popular gym it was today. The 750 emotion points brought his total close to 1000, and he noticed the points were still slowly increasing, meaning Iono's stream was ongoing. He minimized the game window and opened a search page, typing Iono. Soon, he was in her live stream, just in time to see Iono getting swept by Cradley and forced back to the Pokémon Center. In the corner window, Iono's face was flushed clearly. This wasn't her first loss like this. Chat was going wild. 11th time. You can do it, streamer. So close. If it hadn't used synthesis, we would have won. Correction, not won, but finally gotten to see the gym leader's second Pokémon. Haha, feels like there are even more nightmarish Pokémon waiting for the streamer. Streamer's down 15,000 yen already, yikes. Seeing this, Kairos understood her situation stuck at Rustboro Gym. He wasn't surprised. When he first played Emerald Kaizo, even without insane difficulty, he'd gotten stuck here too. No helping it, gym leader Roxanne's Pokémon were absolutely broken. Just that one Cradley with maxed defenses, synthesis, Giga Drain, and Confuse Ray was nearly invincible in the early game. Even in its first evolution stage, both defensive stats were nearly 100 each. At these low levels, it was basically a walking fortress. Who says there are no wall Pokémon? Here's Exhibit A. Not to mention, Roxanne also had Arcan with sky-high attack stats that could destroy everything in one hit, Cranidos with Fire Punch and Thunder Punch for incredible coverage, and Nose Pass with leftovers, high durability, plus powerful Power Gem and Dazzling Gleam moves. Even her least impressive Rock Ruff had advanced moves like Howl and Earth Power. Every single one of Roxanne's Pokémon was a monster, pure stats combined with broken mechanics. Without pulling some tricks, players simply couldn't win. Back when he played without guides, Kairos had struggled through many attempts. In his own Emerald game, due to the 1-5 Pokémon capture limit, Kairos had dynamically adjusted the difficulty, reducing Roxanne's team to just 3, Arcan, Cradley, and Cranidos. While this seemed like half the difficulty, with insane mode bonuses, smart AI, and giving Cradley leftovers, it was actually harder than the original. But that's exactly what Kairos wanted. This game was positioned as high difficulty challenge content. If it weren't this hard, it wouldn't be interesting. As for whether people might be scared off by the difficulty, Kairos wasn't too worried. High difficulty games were exactly what this market was missing. There would always be players eager to climb mountains and overcome challenges. For casual players who just wanted to experience the game, he could add standard or relaxed modes later. Speaking of which, if insane mode focused on difficulty, then relaxed and standard modes would emphasize story and gameplay experience. The original Emerald Kaizo actually had pretty interesting plot content, though it got boring later. But building on that foundation with fresh story elements required significant development resources: scriptwriters, artists for cutscenes and animations, musicians for emotional scoring. Even simple main story segments needed weeks of collaborative work. With the system, this wasn't a problem for Kairos. But he still wanted to create the highest quality story to show the world gaming's true appeal. Achieving that quality required technical support. He looked at several modules he'd bookmarked on the system panel. Emotional Rendering Module, Intermediate. Description, links through the screen to read player heart rate data, automatically generating corresponding mood-based color tones, red tint during anxiety, cold blue when sad, increased brightness when excited, plus auto-adjusting music harmony based on emotional state. Required points, 2,200. Presence Manifestation Module, Intermediate. Description, fully recreates the imposing aura of powerful Pokémon and major characters, transmitting it to players' hearts through electronic frequencies for immersive experiences. Required points, 2,000. Soul Music Module, Intermediate. Description, adds music perfectly suited to scene development that strikes directly at players' souls, guaranteed to evoke emotional responses. Required points, 1,500. Advanced CG Module, Intermediate. Description, automatically generates ultra-high quality cinematic game CGS based on your mental concepts. Once activated, all emotion points from CGS, animations, and cinematic content are doubled. Required points, 1,400. Undoubtedly, these modules were nearly essential for crafting storylines that truly moved players emotionally. But all four were expensive, nearly 10,000 points total. Even if he sold himself, he couldn't afford them. So for now, prioritize perfecting insane difficulty first. Earn enough emotion points, then worry about deep storytelling. That said, while Kairos couldn't afford intermediate modules, several low-tier ones were within reach. His eyes fell on the basic module section. Weather compilation module, basic. Description: adds weather effects with dynamic transitions and automatic mechanic activation. Rain boosts water-type move power while weakening fire moves, makes certain moves never miss, and increases spawn rates for special Pokémon like Surskit and Piplup. Required points, 250. Skill particle effects module, basic. Description: adds particle effects to all Pokémon move animations, enhancing visual presentation. Required points, 150. Text translation module, basic. Description: converts real ancient scripts into in-game relic inscriptions for historical authenticity. Upon activation, host can understand and use any civilization's language. Required points, 200. Many basic modules could truly be called high quality at low prices, powerful effects with solid capabilities. But Kairos didn't rush to buy these, instead focusing on one he'd bookmarked earlier. Production efficiency enhancement module, basic. Description: increases production efficiency for all game types to some degree. Required emotion points, 450. The description was concise but exactly what Kairos needed. With the system, he'd mostly be working solo. Hiring others would be inconvenient since he couldn't expose the system's functions. Even with help, core work would still fall to him. So, regardless of what games he made, he'd be the main force. Without efficiency improvements, larger projects would exhaust him completely. Efficiency was crucial. Even with the Pixel game module boosting production speed, current progress still left him unsatisfied. Normally, his development pace needed to exceed players' progress to attract more people. He knew many players would get stuck at the first gym, Rivals, or Team Rocket early on. But as players improved and understood the game better, they'd progress faster, testing Kairos's production speed. The best approach was preparing subsequent content in advance, then making real-time adjustments based on player performance and feedback. With this efficiency module, Kairos would be much more confident in achieving that goal. Without hesitation, he bought it. The efficiency module appeared in his own section as points were deducted. With his remaining 500 plus points, Kairos browsed the basic modules and decided on the weather compilation module, skill particle effects module, and NPC personality image module. He'd already examined the first two. The NPC module added unique personalities to game characters, making their responses more human-like, essentially enhancing the game's AI. All three modules cost 550 points total, dropping his balance to single digits. But Kairos wasn't worried. As more people played his game, emotion point gains would steadily increase. He just needed to focus on making great games. As they say, good wine needs no advertisement. Though once the game was polished, some promotion would definitely help. The more people got hooked, the more people played, the more points he'd earn. With that thought, he glanced at the still sleeping Litwick nearby, opened his project folder, and continued working on game content. Meanwhile, in the Sinnoh region, Canalave City is a famous port city near the ocean where thousands of cruise ships dock daily. All those ships brought considerable foot traffic to the bustling port, yet within it lay a quiet alley. Click, click, click. High-heeled footsteps broke the alley's silence, then suddenly stopped. A tall blonde woman wearing sunglasses paused her stride. Despite deliberately restraining herself, mature charm and elegance radiated from her every movement. The woman looked around, then gazed at the ground nearby and spoke softly, "Looks like you beat me here again. Sorry for keeping you waiting." As her words ended, a dark shadow suddenly emerged from the ground's shadows, a young man with black hair in a crisp black suit. The man smiled. "Not at all, Cynthia. You know I always arrive early out of habit." But his smile suddenly faded as he scratched his head. "There's been a complication regarding that person you wanted me to find." Cynthia looked surprised. "Oh? What kind of complication?" The man clicked his tongue and smiled wryly. "Well, simply put, I confirmed this game really was developed by one person." Cynthia was taken aback. Such an incredible game was truly solo developed rather than by a studio. The young man continued, however, the league's official database contains absolutely no information about this developer. He gestured toward a nearby door. Let's discuss the details inside. I've already ordered the food, will get cold if we wait. Chapter 12, Professor Oak, what did you just say? In the dry aging cabinet, under spotlights, dark red beef revealed beautiful marbling. Oil sizzled as steaks flipped on the cast iron grill, filling the air with the aroma of meat and black pepper. White-gloved waiters carried silver trays past old elevator gates while soothing piano music echoed throughout the restaurant. Cynthia forked a piece of white bread, dipping it in the meat juices on her plate. So, according to you, this person's information is protected by the League. The young man across from her sipped his juice and nodded. Exactly. I couldn't find any information about him in the League database, so I thought he might be an undocumented individual. But that didn't seem right either. Because, as you said, if he developed that game alone, the League would definitely require identity verification for upload. So he can't be undocumented. That leaves only one possibility: his identity is under League protection, stored not in the regular database but in the classified one. Cynthia's eyebrows rose. Just as she'd suspected, this game's creator, Wind, was no ordinary person. The classified database was the League's system for people who needed hidden identities. Even her own information as Sinnoh champion wasn't stored there. Only world-shaking research geniuses or individuals of critical importance in certain fields received such treatment for their safety. As Cynthia pondered, the young man continued, for the classified database, I could actually try hacking in. Though I'm not completely confident, I'd say maybe a 30% chance. If I really pushed myself, maybe 40%, but that's the absolute limit. Cynthia set down her bread and shook her head slightly. No need, looker. I appreciate you being willing to go that far for me, but if it means hacking the classified database, let's forget it. The young man looked stunned. Why? Isn't contacting this person really important to you? He knew how fanatical and eager Cynthia was about legendary Pokémon information and materials as a mythological archaeologist. To others, as champion, Cynthia was flawless in both character and strength. But when it came to ancient mythology, she became a completely different person. Especially since this legendary was the Sky Dragon Rayquaza. As the young man puzzled, Cynthia spoke again, the risks and costs of accessing the classified database are too high. You were already caught once before when checking the advanced database for me. If the League discovers you again, it won't be as simple as writing an apology letter. Cough, cough. The young man nearly choked, patting his chest. Cynthia, didn't we agree not to bring that up? I was young and inexperienced then, and my skills weren't good either. It's different now. Even if I don't get in, they can't catch me. Forget it really, no need. Cynthia's tone was firm this time. I've thought it over carefully. Since he has that level of status, I should respect him and follow his rules and wishes. His rules? The young man looked curious, stuffing a piece of steak in his mouth. Right, that emerald game. Whoever becomes the first to complete it gets his contact information. Cynthia nodded. Hey! You should have said so earlier. I'm good with games. Leave it to me, I'll clear it for you in minutes. The young man swallowed his steak and patted his chest confidently. What type of game is it? Racing? Strategy? Card game? If it's a shooter, my skills might be slightly lacking, but getting first clear should still be doable. Cynthia glanced at him without speaking. She'd thought the exact same thing initially. How could a Pokémon battle-focused game possibly challenge her? Then strawberry ice cream got thoroughly beaten twice in a row by that black-haired boy, and reality hit hard. After a while, she spoke, no, this game isn't what you think. It's like a battle simulation, but extremely difficult. The young man was stunned. Battle simulation? Extremely difficult? The person sitting across from him was Cynthia. Sinnoh champion. A contender for the top spot among all trainers. Hard to imagine a battle simulation game she'd call extremely difficult. How tough could it be? As the young man stared blankly, Cynthia continued, I'll send you a copy sometime. Play it when you're free and you'll understand. The young man shrugged and backed down immediately. All right, but I'll say up front I'm busy recently, might not have time to play. Maybe later. Cynthia saw through him but didn't call it out, changing topics. the void expansion has accelerated recently. Yet, though the last one was handled relatively easily, another appeared in Hone this afternoon with unusually large energy fluctuations. I have to head over tonight. The young man sighed helplessly. Voids. Cynthia nodded slightly, her expression complex, the light in her eyes dimming. You've worked hard. Not at all, you're the same, Cynthia. I heard the ghost world hasn't been peaceful lately either. This time, Cynthia didn't immediately respond, falling silent before speaking again. No matter how difficult the situation, everything will eventually pass. We just need to fulfill our duties with clear consciences, that's enough. Protecting those ordinary, kind people makes all these sacrifices worthwhile. She raised her glass toward the young man, drained the last drop, and stood up. I'll head back first, then. Take care, don't be too reckless. Sure, let's meet again when we're free. The young man nodded, watching Cynthia's graceful departing figure with admiration. Truly the senior he'd looked up to since childhood. Someday, he'd become as capable as her. He silently made this resolution. But the next moment, a waiter approached. Excuse me, sir. I see your companion has left. May we process payment now? The young man froze. She didn't pay when leaving. No, sir, she left directly. The waiter shook his head. Your total comes to 13,250 yen. Will you be scanning or using a card? The young man? Wasn't Cynthia supposed to be treating? How could she dine and dash? If he'd known, he wouldn't have ordered such expensive dishes. He looked down at his wallet with an embarrassed smile. Could I put it on credit? However, he didn't know that Cynthia hadn't deliberately skipped the bill. Meanwhile, high in the sky on Garcomp's back, Cynthia's face showed sudden realization. Hey? Why did she feel like she'd forgotten something important? Whatever, not important now. The most important thing was getting home to game. That emerald game, if her guess was right, quite a few people were probably playing it already, but only one person could get the first clear and the creator's contact info. She might need to go on missions again soon, so every moment had to be used for clearing this game. 2 hours later, Cynthia returned to her villa in Undella Bay, entered her room, powered up her computer, and launched Emerald directly. She also started her stream, greeting viewers. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm back. Today's also Emerald. As the game loaded, a stream of comments flooded in. Cynthia, you're finally back. Thanks for your hard work on the mission. Missed you so much, honey. Every second without you was torture, crying face, streamer, hurry up. Iono next door is already tackling the first gym. Seeing that last comment, Cynthia paused. She naturally knew Iono, the Paldea region's electric-type gym leader, fairly famous online and in real life. A young person with decent skills and talent, too. Already quasi-elite 4 level at such a young age. She hadn't expected Iono to be playing Emerald already, even challenging the first gym. She pulled out her phone and navigated to Iono's stream, finding her indeed challenging the first gym. But Iono's face was bright red, not from embarrassment, but from anger. She waved her sleeves frantically, face showing nervous anticipation, hands clasped together, muttering, paralysis, paralysis, paralysis. Ah, it healed again. Damn it. Again. Cynthia watched Iono expertly quit and restart the game, slightly stunned. Though she remembered this girl as lively and cheerful, this seemed different. Her mental state looked somewhat abnormal now. Seemed like this game's first gym wasn't so easy to challenge after all. As Cynthia pondered, Iono had restarted her challenge against Roxanne. The moment Cradley appeared, Cynthia froze again. Wait. This Pokémon called Cradley, she was certain she'd never seen it before. But why did it feel so familiar? The more she looked, the more she felt like she'd seen it somewhere. After a brief thought, Cynthia suddenly realized something. She opened Iono's stream on her computer, took a screenshot of the Pokémon, and sent a message on social media with the photo attached. Professor, take a look, is this one of those fossil Pokémon you mentioned? The contact name on the screen was none other than Professor Oak. Right, this world-renowned top Pokémon researcher from Kanto had quite a good relationship with Cynthia. 2 months ago, Professor Oak's research team had discovered a batch of special Pokémon body fossils at ancient ruins, suspected to be left by ancient Pokémon from prehistoric times. This was a huge discovery. Professor Oak immediately led his research team to attempt to reconstruct their appearance and habits. Knowing Cynthia would be interested in these ancient Pokémon, Professor Oak had shared those materials with her one day. The reason Cynthia found this Pokémon familiar was that this Cradily looked remarkably similar to one of the Pokémon in Professor Oak's materials. After sending the message, Cynthia checked the time, 3:30 p.m. If she remembered correctly, Professor Oak should be holding a very important meeting right now and was unlikely to reply immediately. So she turned off her phone screen, planning to watch Iono's stream to study the gym challenge strategy. But the next moment, her phone vibrated. Professor Oak was calling directly. After answering, Cynthia muted her stream microphone and asked curiously, "Professor? Aren't you supposed to be hosting the League World Research Conference now? How do you have time to call me?" Professor Oak's urgent voice came through with heavy breathing. "This is way more important than the conference." "Cynthia, where did you see this image? Though it's pixelated, this matches our estimated appearance of that Pokémon almost perfectly. Even some details are better than our models." Cynthia hadn't expected Professor Oak to give such high praise to a pixel image, but answered honestly, "Professor, I saw this in a pixel game called Pocket Monsters, Emerald." Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, standing outside the conference room with his phone, Professor Oak's face showed complete confusion. A game? He'd assumed this pixel image was from some other lab researching fossils, wanting to visit these colleagues to learn from their techniques. Even as a top Pokémon professor, he always had much to learn. But now Cynthia's answer was making his brain freeze. What did she mean by from a game? A minute later, through Cynthia's explanation, Professor Oak understood the situation. His voice carried some regret. So this creator can't be contacted now. Only the first person to clear the game gets his contact information. That's right. You know how strict the League's classified database is. I'm attempting to clear it now. You're already trying to clear it, so you're also interested in this person? Professor Oak asked curiously. Sort of. He used Rayquaza's image and scenes at the game's opening. I suspect he has clues about Rayquaza. Cynthia answered honestly. Oh, I see. No wonder then. Professor Oak nodded. But the next moment, his eyes widened as his voice shot up 18 octaves. Wait. What did you just say? Rayquaza. Chapter 13, Then and There, Here and Now. This time, Cynthia spent a full half-minute explaining the situation to Professor Oak. After hearing her out, Professor Oak was clearly incredulous. Could something like this really happen? Cynthia had previously asked him to search for information and clues about this sky dragon, and despite mobilizing all his resources and connections traveling to the Hone region, conducting interviews, searching, and poring over ancient texts, Professor Oak had come up empty-handed. He hadn't found so much as a single scale related to this legendary Pokémon. But now Cynthia was telling him she'd seen this legendary creature on a game cover? After his initial disbelief, Professor Oak quickly became excited. Not only had this game developer perfectly recreated a fossil Pokémon's appearance, but they had also used Rayquaza as the game's cover art, which meant they might possess even more information about rare Pokémon. Moreover, anyone capable of creating such accurate ancient Pokémon reconstructions clearly had expertise in fossil research that far exceeded his own and his research teams. If he could recruit such a person or collaborate with them. At this thought, Professor Oak's eyes lit up. What did you say that game was called? I want to try it too. Hey? You want to play too, Professor? On the other end of the line, Cynthia was stunned. Her reaction was understandable. Professor Oak was nearly 70 years old, after all. Video games weren't exactly something you'd associate with someone his age. What's wrong? Little Cynthia, my body may be old, but my heart isn't. Back in my day, I was a trainer who could match you, you know. Professor Oak laughed heartily on the other end of the phone. Only then did Cynthia remember that this world-renowned professor had once been a champion-level trainer in his youth, before his love for Pokémon led him to pursue research instead. In that case, I'll send you the website link in a bit, Professor. Though this game might be a little challenging, you'll need to take it seriously. Haha, it's just a game. How hard could it be? Don't let my age fool you. I've been quietly playing all sorts of games. This won't stump me. Professor Oak chuckled confidently. Don't worry, if this old man manages to get the first clear, I'll make sure you get that guy's contact information too. Well, thank you, Professor. Somehow, Cynthia felt like Professor Oak's current confident demeanor seemed familiar. Wasn't this exactly like her when she first started playing Emerald? After ending the call with Professor Oak, Cynthia refocused her attention on Iono's stream. After watching for a while, she understood what made the first Pokémon in this rock gym Cradily so challenging. With extremely high defensive stats on both sides, plus carrying an item for continuous HP recovery, using Ingrain to restore health directly, and combining that with Confuse Ray's control effects, it was indeed a formidable opponent. As a champion who'd seen it all, she wasn't unfamiliar with such Pokémon. Some advanced trainers trained their Pokémon toward defensive counterattacks, using super high defense and recovery abilities to wage wars of attrition against opponents. If it were her own team configuration facing such a Pokémon, it probably wouldn't be much of a problem. But this was in-game, and in the early stages, the Pokémon you could capture and train were quite limited, making Cradily's difficulty multiply many times over. Seeing Iono's Joltik hit itself in confusion with Bug Bite, successfully knocking out its last bit of HP, Cynthia couldn't help but giggle as she closed the stream. She knew she shouldn't laugh, but watching Iono's face turn red as she stood up straight from her chair was just too much not to react to. Through watching Iono's stream, she'd gathered some key information. The next gym would be Rock-type, so she could prepare in advance. For her Trico, this seemed like good news after all. Grass-type was super effective against Rock-type. But she didn't think Trico could successfully break through that Cradily, since it appeared to be a Grass/Rock type. Because Grass types resisted each other, Trico's Grass-type moves wouldn't have much advantage. So she needed to find a way to train a Pokémon that could handle Cradily. But the most pressing issue was still dealing with that rival black-haired boy waiting at the end of the route. Otherwise, forget about gyms, she couldn't even leave this starting town. With this thought, Cynthia turned her camera and microphone back on, sat back down at her computer, and said apologetically, "Sorry for keeping everyone waiting, I had to take a phone call." "No problem. I'd wait however long. She warmed my heart and made me cry." "Who was it? Not Dragonite guy, right? Or Stone guy?" The Emerald game had successfully loaded, and the window popped up. However, this time the opening animation was replaced by a notification box. Looking at the contents of the notification box, Cynthia paused. An update notification? And from the timestamp in the upper left corner, it looked like it had just been updated a few minutes ago. She curiously read the notification box. "Dear players, please note, the game has been updated. Current game version, 0.2. Latest update contents. 1. Added weather system. Weather conditions in the game will change based on region and time. When battling outdoors during weather conditions, it will have corresponding effects on battle and will activate some non-combat mechanics. Please explore on your own. 2. Further enhanced the AI intelligence of Pokémon and NPCs, they now have more distinct personalities. 3. Optimized particle effects for Pokémon move animations in-game, making them more visually spectacular. 4. Map development extended to Dewford Town. Players can now head to Dewford Island for their second gym challenge after clearing the first gym. After seeing this series of notifications, Cynthia's first reaction was surprise. If she remembered correctly, this game had only been released the day before yesterday. How could there already be 2 updates in just 2 days? As she pondered this, her gaze fell on the second line of the update notice, and she froze. Wait. What did they mean by enhanced AI intelligence? When did this game quietly add AI? Having played Battle Road for over a year, Cynthia understood how difficult it was to add intelligent AI to games. Even a major company like Dream Factory had spent enormous time and resources trying to add intelligent AI to some PvE characters in their games, but the results were minimal and instead created a bunch of bugs. There was no helping it. Intelligent AI was still an emerging field that had only appeared in recent years worldwide. For gaming companies to dive deep into development in this area was exceptionally difficult. But now this Emerald game she was playing claimed to have AI after just 1 day? If it were any other game, Cynthia would never believe it. But if it was this Pokémon Emerald, that was a completely different story. She believed that if this developer said they had it, then they probably really did. As Cynthia pondered, the chat began updating. Wait! Is there really AI? Can anyone who bought the game confirm if this is real? Don't ask, anyone who bought the game is too busy playing to watch streams. You know how addictive this game is. Is it my love for the streamer that keeps me in this stream? No, it's poverty that keeps us gathered here. Some viewers who'd watched Iono's stream gave confirming responses. It's real, and super intelligent. You'll see in a moment. But this game's performance on the first day of streaming had already far exceeded most viewers' expectations. Now, after just one day, they claimed to have added AI functionality. Even with people vouching for it, others found it hard to believe. As everyone remained skeptical, Cynthia had already re-entered the game and walked her character out of the Pokémon Center. She glanced at the prompt on the screen. Press E to voice chat or input commands for interaction. Just as she was muttering to herself, she noticed her accompanying Trico had a peculiar expression. Unlike when she first started playing, when Trico always maintained a cool demeanor, now it stood beside Cynthia with eyes glancing sideways at her, arms crossed over its chest, chewing on a twig looking thoroughly dissatisfied. Though pixelated, the graphics were detailed enough that Cynthia could tell at a glance that her Trico was in a bit of a mood. Seeing this, she pressed E to input a command, wanting to pat Trico's head. However, the next moment, as her in-game character reached out, Trico stepped back and jumped away. Chiamo! It even let out a distinctly disdainful cry. Seeing this, the stream viewers were stunned. Then the chat exploded with comments. Holy crap! There really is AI. How is this different from a real Pokémon? Ha ha ha, lost twice in a row, now it's unhappy. This has to be pre-programmed, right? Like a trigger that activates after losing to the same person consecutively. Everyone's focus varied, but Cynthia, looking at the Trico on screen, took a slight breath and pressed E again. But this time she didn't input a command instead, she spoke directly in a sincere tone. Trico, I'm truly sorry about those failures. Neither of those battles was lost because of any problem with you. From now on, I'll find ways to complete our team so you won't have to fight with type disadvantages, and instead, we'll find ways to showcase your strengths. Besides, I promise that someday, you'll be able to hold your own against even the strongest and most difficult Pokémon. So, please give me one more chance, okay? After Cynthia finished speaking, she stared intently at the Trico on screen. Trico turned to look at Cynthia's character, pursed its lips slightly, swished its tail, and subtly moved 2 steps closer to her. Chiamo, cha! With this somewhat dissatisfied cry, a notification popped up on screen. Obviously, Trico seems to reluctantly accept your explanation, but you'll need to prove this with your actions moving forward. Additionally, it's telling you that if you make it fight fire types again next time, it's going on strike. Seeing this, the chat exploded again. If viewers had still doubted the game's intelligent AI earlier, now there was absolutely no question this AI was definitely real. Otherwise, how could there be such rapid, precise, and realistic responses? Holy shit, this AI is way too advanced. This is just like a real Pokémon. Even the narration has AI intelligence, right? This Trico is so tsundere, I love it. So this is what they meant about Pokémon having unique personalities. This completely destroys Dream Factory's crappy Battle Road AI by 20 streets. In comparison, theirs is artificial stupidity. Meanwhile, Cynthia, watching Trico's reaction on screen, was slightly dazed. Some images from deep in her memory suddenly surfaced. It was many years ago, when she'd just received her starter Pokémon and was just an ordinary little girl. Her Garchomp back then wasn't the powerful and majestic creature it was now, just a Gible that had recently hatched from an egg. In an important first battle against another trainer her age, due to her command errors, they ended in defeat. After the battle, Gible had acted like this Trico, hands on hips, head held high, looking thoroughly indignant. But her younger self had immediately made a promise. Gible, don't be mad this time, it really was my fault for commanding like that. I'll definitely work hard to improve my commanding skills and won't hold you back, I promise. Someday, we'll become really amazing. More amazing than any trainer. These promises made Gible purse its lips and grudgingly grunt before moving closer to her. And what happened after that, naturally didn't need to be said. She had ultimately kept that promise. And now? Cynthia looked at the Trico with its hands behind its head, looking thoroughly dissatisfied, and suddenly smiled softly. Here and now, just like then and there, wasn't it? Could this count as her becoming a trainer all over again? Chapter 14, Wait, who are you supposed to be? With this thought, Cynthia returned Trico to its Pokeball and began thinking about strategies for the current situation. Clearly, whether considering the rival ahead or the rock gym leader's situation afterward, this game's developer had one goal in mind: to make players prepare from the very beginning to build a reasonable, well-rounded Pokémon team capable of handling various situations and opponents. After all, this was a game where training Pokémon cost virtually nothing. You only needed to invest time to raise their levels and strength. Unlike the real world, where each Pokémon required enormous amounts of money and energy to grow and become stronger, building a mature team was thousands, even tens of thousands, of times more difficult in reality than in the game. At the same time, the game's developer had added a restriction: players could capture no more than 15 Pokémon in total. This meant players had to make serious decisions when capturing each Pokémon, treasuring every slot. With this realization, Cynthia began thinking rapidly. Against Fire-type Pokémon, the best countering types were naturally Water and Rock. But from what she remembered, the wild Pokémon she had encountered along this route didn't include any of those types. Rock-type Pokémon generally didn't inhabit roadside grass or flat terrain. They usually lived in caves and mountainous regions. The Pokémon she had seen so far were like Pidgey, Rattata, Spearow, and Poochyena, species commonly found in suburban areas around cities. From this alone, she could tell the game's developer had designed Pokémon distribution areas to mimic realistic habitats. Returning to the game flow, if she couldn't defeat her rival now, she naturally couldn't proceed to the next area. This also meant obtaining a Water or Rock-type Pokémon in the early game wouldn't be easy. Just as Cynthia was pondering solutions, a figure suddenly flashed through her mind. That's right. If she remembered correctly, the very first Pokémon she had encountered when leaving town with Trico fit the requirements. She immediately moved her character back to the grass patch at the upper entrance of town and began running around repeatedly. This was the game's encounter mechanic: whenever you moved through grass, caves, or other areas where Pokémon might spawn, there was a certain probability of an encounter. It was completely random. You might find a common Pokémon, or you might encounter a rare one. This unpredictability was one of the great joys and core elements of the original games. As her character ran around, she began encountering enemies constantly. But Cynthia didn't battle these Poochyena and Spearow. She fled directly instead. On the 7th attempt, a green figure appeared before her, a small, cute Pokémon with a light blue body and a lily pad on its head. This was exactly Cynthia's target, Loaded. Loaded was a dual-type grass/water Pokémon. Thanks to its secondary typing, it perfectly covered its weakness to fire types and could counter them in return. For dealing with Torchic under these early game circumstances, it was the perfect choice. After using Trico's Pound twice to lower Loaded's HP, Cynthia threw a Pokeball. It shook 3 times, and with a ding, the capture was successful. This was her first captured Pokémon in this Emerald game. As the battle screen ended, Cynthia explained to the chat. I thought it over. Although its grass typing overlaps with Trico's, given the current situation, Loaded seems to be the best choice. On one hand, it can help Trico cover the difficulty of fighting fire types. On the other hand, as a grass/water dual type, the two types complement each other, avoiding disadvantages against ice, electric, and fire types. Its resistances are quite good. Then she remembered something: you could directly check Pokémon abilities in this game. And Loaded's ability hadn't been discovered yet. So what kind of ability would the developer give it? She opened the Pokémon menu to check Loaded's ability and paused. What appeared before her was an ability she had never seen before: Swift Swim. The effect description read, under rainy weather conditions, Pokémon with this ability have their speed doubled. As the ability screen appeared, the stream chat lit up. Swift Swim? What the heck? Never heard of Loaded having this ability. I think I heard someone say Loaded's ability still hasn't been researched and identified, right? True, but this seems way too overpowered. Double speed? Sounds like the author made it up for fun. Nah, even if it's made up, it's not that overpowered. You can only use it when it's raining. In dry regions, this ability would be useless. The chat buzzed with speculation, but Cynthia kept her gaze fixed on the ability information. As a champion, she knew undiscovered abilities weren't uncommon in Pokémon research circles. Many abilities had unusual trigger conditions and effects that weren't obvious through normal reasoning, making ability exploration an important research task. So was this Swift Swim a custom creation, or was it real? Cynthia's intuition told her it might actually be real, but it was hard to believe. Because if it were true, this would be a big deal. Doubling a Pokémon's speed in battle would be game-changing. Even a small boost could drastically affect combat performance. Confirmation of such an ability would cause a sensation among top-tier trainers. Why only top-tier? Because ordinary trainers couldn't control the weather. But recently, high-level trainers had begun developing weather moves to manipulate battle conditions. If weather became a controllable factor, trainers specializing in water and grass types would rush to train Loaded. In the research field, this would also be a huge discovery, suggesting that many other water types with undiscovered abilities might also have swift swim. The more she thought about it, the more convinced she became. Someone with the knowledge to recreate ancient Pokémon fossils and deeply understand legendary Pokémon wouldn't add an ability at random. Besides, the latest game update had specifically emphasized weather effects. Determining its authenticity was simple. She could contact Professor Oak and have him test Loaded in rainy conditions. But since she had just bothered him about the fossil matter, she decided to wait until after his meeting. At the same time, a new idea struck her. Since the game had a weather system and she had a swift swim Pokémon, why not try building a rain team? In reality, her team was already set, so starting fresh wasn't feasible. But this game gave her an opportunity to experiment early with weather-based strategies, something that might take years to see officially implemented elsewhere. With that thought, she began training Loaded in nearby grass patches. 20 minutes later, after Loaded reached level 12 and learned Water Gun, she challenged the black-haired boy again. Torchique's peck could deal super effective damage, but since it wasn't stab, it wasn't strong enough. Loaded won, securing Cynthia's victory. She released both Pokémon, patted Loaded's head, and said, "Well done, Loaded." Loda. Trico leaned against a tree, chewing a grass blade, feigning disinterest though its wagging tail betrayed its real feelings. The chat reacted warmly. So heartwarming. Even in games, she values bonding with her Pokémon. That's our Cynthia. This is why she's champion. It's all about love for Pokémon. The plot moved forward, returning to the lab for the Pokédex, heading to Petalburg City, meeting the protagonist's father and May, and entering Petalburg Woods. Cynthia played with focus, occasionally glancing at chat but mostly immersed in the game. Serious streamers are so cool. Even playing games seriously, she's so charismatic. This game really suits her. Deep in Petalburg Woods, she remembered Iono's stream and the tanky Cradley she had seen there. With both Trico and Loaded at level 15, she assessed their moves and realized neither was well suited for that fight. She would need a new Pokémon. Meanwhile, in Iono's stream. Paralyze. 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 Her face flushed as she prayed for paralysis. Electricity sparked, and Cradley was paralyzed, its HP dropping to the last third. Nice. As she prepared to finish the battle, something unexpected happened. Cradley vanished in a beam of light. Leader Roxanne withdrew Cradley. A new Pokémon appeared. Leader Roxanne sent out Archon. Iono? Wait, who are you supposed to be? Chapter 15, Confused Roxanne and Cynthia's new Pokémon. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in the Hone region, in Rustboro City. In front of a building, a girl in a black skirt and dark red tights, with her hair in a bun, sat on a chair. She held a Guedud in her arms, which was squinting contentedly as she carefully wiped the dust from its body with a dry cloth. This girl had an extraordinary presence, with deep red pupils that revealed confidence and determination. Anyone passing by would immediately recognize her as Roxanne, the Rustboro gym leader known as the Rock-type prodigy. At this moment, Roxanne finished cleaning Guedud and placed it on the chair beside her, stretching comfortably. Few days without challengers are the best. So peaceful. As the Rustboro gym leader, she had noticed that fewer and fewer trainers had been challenging her gym over the past year. It was probably because the Home League had recently recognized more gyms, so naturally, the relatively difficult Rustboro gym wouldn't be trainers' top choice. Roxanne was quite happy with this situation. On one hand, it was recognition of her strength. On the other hand, she actually enjoyed taking it easy, or rather, slacking off. If you don't slack off when you can, what's the point of working every day? Pika pika. Just as Roxanne was leaning back in her chair, enjoying life's ease, her phone suddenly rang. She was surprised. Taking out her phone, she saw an unknown number on the screen. Without much thought, she answered directly. Hello? This is Roxanne. May I ask who's calling? A girl's voice came from the other end. Hello, my name is Iono. Roxanne paused. That name sounded somewhat familiar. Oh, hello. What can I do for you? She asked instinctively. The other end went silent for a moment before the voice returned with a crying tone. I wanted to ask if you have Pokémon called Arcan and Cradily. If possible, I'd like to know, what are these two Pokémon afraid of? I really can't beat them. Roxanne? What the heck? At that moment, Roxanne, the Rustboro gym leader and rock-type prodigy, was completely baffled. While Iono was calling Roxanne after being destroyed by Arcan's devastating rock slide boosted by its 112 base attack stat, Cynthia was also thinking seriously in front of her screen. It had to be said, Iono's chosen battle method did have some logic. Since status effects were probability-based, and with countless attempts available, as long as you tried enough times, there would eventually be a successful run. But Cynthia didn't want to completely copy her approach, for several reasons. First, purely gambling on probability was too torturous. Second, she felt that under such high challenge difficulty, repeatedly gambling on probability shouldn't be the game developer's intention. She could tell that this game creator's intention was for players to build complete teams to cover their weaknesses. This Cradily in the first gym was essentially the first test for players. In the real world, configuring a reasonable and complete team was practically a required course for Elite Four members and champions like herself. You could even say that the difference between two Elite Four level trainers often wasn't in their individual Pokémon, but in their overall team composition. Even at the champion level, this remained true, though it was somewhat diminished by the terrifying individual strength of their Pokémon. But undoubtedly, a champion who didn't focus on team composition versus one who considered team synergy, the latter would definitely win. Speaking of which, being able to design such challenges in a game made her even more certain, this game creator was not only a professional researcher but also an extremely strong trainer. Otherwise, they couldn't have this level of understanding and expertise. If Cynthia had only been curious about the creator's identity due to Rayquaz's cover art before, now she was genuinely interested in the creator themselves. Back to the game. Cradily's typing was Grass and Rock. The types that were super effective against it were Bug, Steel, Ice, and Fighting. Reviewing the Pokémon she'd encountered along the way, Cynthia found there were many normal, Bug, Flying, and Grass types. Among these types, only Bug was super effective against Cradily. But Bug types had a problem: in their unevolved states, they generally had extremely low combatability. Iono's Joltik was a perfect example. Even with type advantage against Cradily, one Bug bite could only deal less than a third of its HP. If there were Bug-type Pokémon that could evolve to their final form before level 15, that would be a good choice. But Cynthia couldn't be sure whether these Bug-type Pokémon could evolve at this level. After all, there was no level concept in the real world. She herself hadn't had much contact with Bug-type Pokémon either. So, should she try? Standing in Petalburg Woods, filled with Bug-type Pokémon, Cynthia hesitated. However, the next moment, she mysteriously had a new idea. Next, Cynthia moved her character through Petalburg Woods, battled several trainers on bridges and nearby, and successfully reached Rustboro City. At this point, both Pokémon in her team had reached the current level cap, 15. Watching Cynthia's character get closer to the gym, the chat excitedly updated. Here it comes. Ha 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 ha, I'm already laughing. Go Cynthia! Show this little hone gym leader what champion strength looks like. I'll post this in advance. The Sinnoh champion getting beaten up by some unknown hone gym leader. Why would I have such a dream? Obviously, having witnessed this game's difficulty and watched Iono's gym challenge, the viewers didn't think Cynthia could win. However, the next moment, something unexpected happened. Cynthia's character reached the Rustboro gym but didn't go inside. Instead, she walked right past the building toward the northern part of Rustboro City. Seeing this, the chat immediately erupted with laughter. Cynthia, why are you running away? Oh no! Our forces are doomed, retreat! Facing the stream screen full of laughter, Cynthia spoke. I just thought, since each region has Pokémon with unique attributes and species, there should be other Pokémon around Rustboro City, too. Given the developer's design philosophy, they should have arranged some Pokémon that can counter Cradily nearby. As she finished speaking, a new root and grass patch appeared before Cynthia. She smiled slightly. So, this should be the place. Cynthia was now in that grass patch, controlling her character to encounter wild Pokémon, while the chat was amazed by her strategy. GG, truly a veteran champion, such insight. Even guessing the developer's design. The previous areas had people blocking the way. I thought you had to beat the gym to proceed this time too. Didn't expect it wasn't designed that way. This developer really has many tricks up their sleeve. Speaking of which, do you think there are Pokémon here that can handle that Cradily? I doubt it. That thing is so broken, who could counter it? As the chat discussed, Cynthia's game screen suddenly flashed, indicating she'd encountered a wild Pokémon. When the encounter screen parted, what appeared before her was a pink, bear-like Pokémon. The moment she saw this Pokémon, Cynthia couldn't help but pause slightly. It's actually this one? She naturally recognized this Pokémon, Stufful, the pre-evolution of Beware from the Alola region. Despite its current cute appearance, like a living doll, its final evolution, Beware, possessed extremely high physical attack and stamina, truly terrifying. Even in the Alola region, it was considered a fairly well-known Pokémon. But its rarity wasn't high, it was quite common. The reason for its high recognition was that they were incredibly strong and loved to hug people. If you weren't careful, they could easily break a trainer's bones with their hugs. If not for this flaw, the number of trainers raising Beware would probably increase tenfold. With this thought, Cynthia shook her head slightly. Stufful's typing was Fighting plus Normal. The Fighting type was exactly what she needed to counter Cradily. Moreover, unlike Bug-type Pokémon, Fighting types typically had their stats focused on physical attack and were quite weak defensively. After all, Fighting types' greatest characteristic was their ability to unleash fierce attacks, like an unstoppable spear that was the Fighting type style. Such a spear was exactly the best means to deal with Cradily, this shield. Or, given Cradily's tankiness, it should be a battle between a siege engine and a fortress wall. As Cynthia pondered, she sent out Trico to use Pound twice, easily reducing Stufful's HP to red, then threw a Pokeball. However, this capture wasn't smooth. Several Pokeballs failed to capture it successfully. Instead, under Stufful's consecutive fierce attacks, Trico's HP began flashing red. And Cynthia only had one Pokeball left in her bag. At this critical moment, a dramatic scene occurred. On screen, Trico turned around and looked at Cynthia with resentment in its eyes. Its little gaze was full of silent accusation toward her. Before Cynthia could react, a prompt suddenly appeared below. Trico seems to be getting angry. Trico snatched the last Pokeball from your hands. Trico threw the Pokeball. The red and white ball traced a perfect arc through the air, landing precisely on Stufful's body, converting it into white light and capturing it. The Pokeball began shaking once, twice, 3 times. Click. With triumphant music, the prompt appeared. Congratulations! Stufful was successfully captured. New Pokémon information has been recorded in the Pokédex. Cynthia? The stream chat naturally went wild over that scene. Ha 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 ha. Trico couldn't stand it anymore and got angry. Ha 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 ha. Cynthia, your ball throwing technique needs improvement. You're not even as good as little Trico. Your own Pokémon couldn't watch anymore and chose to help you throw balls for captures. LMAO. Cynthia looked at Trico, who had given her a disdainful look before running back into its ball to rest, then at the Pokeball containing Stufful in her character's hand. Her expression was somewhat complex. Well, at least the outcome was good, right? This Stufful space level was 11, 4 levels below the maximum. So after successfully capturing it, Cynthia immediately took it to nearby grass patches to battle other wild Pokémon and level up. She could also check out the wild Pokémon distribution in this area. 15 minutes later, Stufful successfully reached level 15. Only then did Cynthia open the bag interface to check this Pokémon's information. Stufful. Level, 15, max reached. Nature, adamant. Type, normal/fighting. Moves, flail, normal, /force palm, fighting, /leer, normal, /payback, dark. SP. ATK 16. Attack 38, Defense 21, SP. Def 21, Speed 21. Seeing Stufful's move panel, Cynthia's expression brightened slightly. 38 attack was quite high, even higher than Trico's best stat, special attack, by over 10 points. Moreover, it had learned Force Palm. The fighting type move Force Palm had decent power while also having a 30% chance to paralyze the opponent. This move was simply the perfect counter to that Cradily. It could deal massive damage while providing control effects to interrupt its ingrain. Now she should have no problem facing that Cradily. Just as Cynthia was preparing to challenge the gym, she suddenly remembered something else. Oh right, if she remembered correctly, because contact with Stufful and Beware was quite dangerous. Their abilities hadn't been discovered by the scientific community yet. Then, what would their abilities be in the game? With this thought, Cynthia immediately looked at the ability screen, and a line of text quickly came into view. This time, it was actually an ability she'd seen before. Ability, Fluffy. Pokémon with this ability take half damage from direct attacks, but take double damage when hit by fire-type moves. Chapter 16, Cynthia's Gym Battle, Roxanne's Ace. This Fluffy ability was first discovered on a Pokémon called Wooloo from the Galar region. The discovery story was somewhat amusing. A farmer who raised many Wooloo noticed they were particularly afraid of torches, so he reported this to the local research institution. Logically speaking, sheep covered in wool being afraid of fire was quite normal. But the local research institution, having nothing better to do, investigated further and accidentally discovered Wooloo's ability. Cynthia hadn't expected this Stufful's ability to be exactly the same as Wooloo's. She planned to tell Professor Oak about it later, along with the clue about the swift swim ability. From the current in-game perspective, this was undoubtedly an excellent ability, giving Stufful an effective 50% damage reduction against most physical attacks. Although it passively added a fire-type weakness, Loaded in the team could cover this weakness, making the downside practically negligible. Overall, it was an ability whose benefits far outweighed its drawbacks. After confirming Stufful's status, Cynthia retraced her path back to the Rustboro gym entrance and entered. Just as she had predicted, Stufful easily defeated the gym's blocking NPCs with a single force palm. She finally stood before gym leader Roxanne. The rocky earth can support everything, and I'll show you the charm of rock-type Pokémon. With Roxanne's declaration and triumphant music, the gym battle officially began. Roxanne naturally sent out Cradley first. Cynthia chose Stufful to take the field. At this moment, the chat was cheering Cynthia on. Go Cynthia! Show them champion strength too! Is this annoyingly tanky Cradley finally going to get what's coming to it? Cynthia! 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 Cynthia's gaze sharpened, her demeanor instantly changing as an invisible aura emanated from her serious mode. If other Elite Four members or champions saw this, they'd probably be shocked. This was a state Cynthia only entered when battling fellow champion-level trainers. And now, she was adopting it because of a game. Facing Cradley, Cynthia immediately chose Force Palm. But a red light flashed, and Cradley instantly disappeared. Gym leader Roxanne withdrew Cradley. Gym leader Roxanne sent out Cranidos. A blue, dinosaur-like Pokémon with protrusions on its head appeared. Cranidos, a rock type. Want to preserve Cradley's condition. Although real-world battles didn't allow such casual switching, Cynthia quickly understood her opponent's purpose. But she wasn't worried. Cranidos was also weak to Force Palm. Based on Stufful's previous performance, unless the opponent was very bulky, one super effective Force Palm could knock out a same-level Pokémon. So even if Roxanne switched in Cranidos, it would only delay the inevitable by one turn. But after being hit, Cranidos' plummeting HP bar suddenly stopped. Cranidos' focus sash let it endure the attack. Its HP was preserved. The chat erupted in confusion. GG, this gym leader is cheating. Focus sash? What's that? It can lock HP. Cynthia was also surprised. Neither in the real world nor in Battle Road had such an item appeared before. She quickly deduced its effect. It allowed a Pokémon to survive a fatal hit with 1 HP, likely with activation conditions and only once per battle. Otherwise, it would be completely unbalanced. Cynthia ordered another Force Palm to finish Cranidos, but the blue figure moved first. It slammed into Stufful with such force that the screen shook violently. Cranidos used takedown. Critical hit. Stufful's HP bar emptied instantly, a one-shot KO. The chat exploded. Stufful bro! Holy crap, what kind of damage is this? Another critical hit? Oh my god! Cynthia was thoughtful but said nothing. After a moment, she closed and restarted the game, a trick she'd learned from Iono's stream. Restarting still counted as a loss, with money deducted, but gym battles deducted relatively little. Otherwise, a certain electric-type streamer might be in debt by hundreds of thousands. Cynthia began the challenge again. Once more, Roxanne sent out Cradley, Cynthia sent out Stufful, Cradley switched to Cranidos, Focus Sash activated. But this time, Cynthia switched to Loaded. Cranidos' takedown landed another critical hit. Loaded fainted, but Cranidos also fainted from recoil damage. The chat began to catch on, and Cynthia explained calmly. No matter what, Stufful must be preserved for Cradley, so we protect it here. Takedown has high power but causes recoil. Switching lets us keep Stufful at full health. She sighed. I didn't expect another critical hit. After the battle, she'd definitely need to comfort loaded. Roxanne sent out Cradley again, and Stufful returned to face it. Both sides had lost one Pokémon. Cynthia chose Force Palm. This time, Roxanne didn't switch. Stufful charged, its arms glowing with brownish-yellow energy, striking Cradley hard. It's super effective. Cradley's HP dropped below half, flashing yellow. It swayed, light gathering at its head, then vanishing. Cradley used Confuse Ray, but it missed. Cynthia wasn't surprised. Confuse Ray had low accuracy and often missed. But when the turn ended, Cradley's leftovers restored its HP to green. That wasn't good. Combined with Ingrain, Cradley could recover over half its HP each turn. If Force Palm's damage didn't exceed that, Stufful would lose due to limited PP. Unless she landed a critical hit or paralysis. Cynthia attacked again, and this time, Cradley was paralyzed. On its turn, paralysis activated, and it couldn't move. Without recovery, it fell into the red. On the next turn, Stufful's attack finished it. The chat went wild. We won. Finally defeated this annoying guy. Got it on the second try. Many viewers knew how difficult Cradley was from Iono's stream. Not only had Cynthia beaten it, she'd also taken down Cranidos. Now Roxanne had only one Pokémon left, while Cynthia still had a healthy Stufful and a full health Trico. Victory seemed certain. But Cynthia remained calm. Her instincts told her the battle wasn't over. Roxanne appeared on screen again, smiling confidently. I admit your performance is excellent, but I won't lose to you. My Rock-type Pokémon and I will fight until the very last moment. Come out, my pride. A bird-like Pokémon with red, blue, and yellow feathers and a massive beak appeared. The chat was puzzled. Another new Pokémon? What species is this? I suddenly have a bad feeling. Cynthia was also surprised. She'd never seen it before. Arcan. She read from the screen. Could it be another ancient fossil Pokémon? Her focus returned. Whatever it was, she had to win. She selected Force Palm. But Arcan moved first, streaking forward in a blur. Arcan used Wing Attack. It's super effective. Stufful's HP dropped to 0 in one hit, a one-shot KO. Chapter 17, Arcan. Wait, what? Brilliant tricolored light flashed through the air, and amid the fluttering feathers, Stufful's HP bar instantly dropped to 0. Having lost its ability to battle, it was automatically recalled into its Pokeball. The battle interface reappeared, and both Roxanne and Cynthia were down to their final glowing Pokeball. This meant the battle had reached its final moments. But right now, the situation was clearly not looking good for Cynthia. As her ace Pokémon and the crucial linchpin of this gym battle, Stufful had been taken out before it could even use a single move, completely one-shot by Arcan. While type advantage played a role, that attack hadn't even been a critical hit, which just went to show how ridiculously powerful this Arcan's physical attack stat really was. And her team's final remaining Pokémon, Trico, was also weak to that wing attack she'd just witnessed. Seeing this, Cynthia's heart sank. Of course. As the challenger, she could prepare her team to counter the gym leader's type specialty. But naturally, the gym leader could also prepare in advance and find ways to counter her strategy. This Pokémon called Arcan was clearly a flying/rock type, and flying type moves were super effective against both fighting and grass, the two types that rock was weak to. It was Roxanne's key defensive counter. Cynthia shook her head slightly. It looked like she wouldn't be able to clear this challenge this time either. Trico's speed and physical defense were both slightly lower than Stufful's. Under the same type of disadvantage, if Stufful couldn't handle it, then Trico naturally wouldn't be able to either. But still, this second attempt had been quite successful. She'd not only defeated two of Roxanne's Pokémon, but had also seen her opponent's final trump card. Well, actually, every one of Roxanne's Pokémon was incredibly strong and could serve as her ace. She simply decided how to use these three Pokémon based on her opponent's team composition. With this thought, Cynthia was already preparing to quit the game and end the battle early. After all, not too long ago, she had promised Trico that she'd find ways to play to its strengths and try not to put it up against type disadvantageous opponents. But the next moment, the game screen suddenly changed. A red and white Pokeball popped out on screen, shaking violently in front of her. Your Pokémon Trico wants to battle. Will you answer its call? Seeing this, she couldn't help but freeze for a moment. The Pokeball kept shaking, as if urging Cynthia on. Her eyes narrowed with determination. If her own Pokémon wanted to fight, then as its trainer, how could she possibly run away? Even if she lost, she had to lose without any regrets. Backing down and giving up when faced with a strong opponent had never been her style. She had to at least try once. If she lost, next time she'd just come back with her Pokémon and win it back. As Cynthia pressed confirm, white light flashed, and Trico took the field. Trico, the opponent is strong, you have to give it everything you've got. Cynthia hit the interaction key and spoke rapidly. Trico. What answered her was Trico's cry, filled with fighting spirit. The next moment, Cynthia directly selected Mega Drain. This was the move that would deal the most damage to a rock-type Pokémon, and also Trico's highest powered move currently available. Even if she couldn't confirm whether the opponent had a flying type, this was still the best choice right now. But instead of Trico's body glowing with green light first, Arcan transformed into a tricolored flash, instantly closing in on Trico and slamming down hard with both wings. Its speed was higher than Trico's, earning it the right to attack first. 2 message prompts popped up at that moment. Arcan used Wing Attack, it's super effective. Critical hit. This scene made the chat explode with cries of despair. It's over, there's no way he can tank that hit. Yeah, this thing already hits like a truck, and it's super effective against Trico. Now with a critical hit, it's definitely a one-shot. Guess we'll have to try again next time. But getting this far, the streamer did her best. Trico took the hit, and its HP plummeted instantly, hitting rock bottom and continuing to drop at an alarming rate. Without a doubt, its defenses couldn't handle this attack. But just then, almost as if possessed, Cynthia pressed the E key and shouted. Hang in there. Trico. I believe in you. The moment those words left her mouth, even she was slightly stunned. This was just a game, why had she instinctively done something like that? Maybe. It was because, right now, she truly wanted to stand behind Trico like a real trainer and give it her support and encouragement. Cynthia shook her head slightly, complex emotions swirling in her eyes. The action seemed pointless, but even if she could go back 2 seconds, she'd still do the same thing. Even though it didn't really mean anything practical. But in the next instant, Ho-hum! In Trico's eyes, a brilliant light like flames flickered for just a moment. Large blocks of rainbow-colored text appeared along with incredibly stirring music. At this critical moment, Trico answered your call. Trico miraculously withstood the fatal attack. Is this the bond between trainer and Pokémon? Trico's HP bar flickered like a candle in the wind, dropping to its final sliver. But then, it stopped. He didn't fall. The next moment, Trico. Along with Trico's roar, powerful forest green light blazed and surged across its body, and countless dense emerald points of light formed a whirlwind that swept toward Arcan. Trico's Overgrow activated. Critical hit. The Overgrow ability's effect: when HP drops below 1/3, all grass-type moves have double power. Combined with the critical hit's double damage. 4 times damage stacked up, and Arcan's HP vanished instantly, completely depleted. Arcan fainted. The final Pokeball icon above Roxanne's head dimmed, declaring Cynthia's victory. What followed was a prompt. What's happening to Trico? A brilliant rainbow-like light appeared around Trico's body. Wrapped in that light, Trico's silhouette became blurred and began changing rapidly. This was clearly the light of evolution. Within that dazzling 7-colored radiance, Trico's appearance underwent a complete transformation. Its body became more slender and tall, with a long leaf extending from its head to its back, and emerald green forked triangular leaves distributed like weapons on its left and right claws. Congratulations! Your Pokémon Trico has successfully evolved into Gravel. After Trico finished evolving, Roxanne appeared. That was an excellent battle. The bond between you and your Pokémon surpassed even the hardness of rock. I'm truly impressed. This is the Stone Badge. With this, you can command higher level Pokémon, and here's something else for you. Roxanne handed Cynthia a silver badge and pulled out a disc. This is trademark 39 Rock Tomb. After using it, you can seal your opponent with rocks to deal damage while restricting their movement and lowering their speed. Make good use of it. I look forward to our next battle next time. I definitely won't lose. After Roxanne finished speaking and left, Cynthia's gym battle came to a perfect conclusion. However, the chat had fallen completely silent. Everyone was still absorbed in that battle and hadn't recovered yet. After several seconds of a blank screen, everyone's messages came flooding back, filling the chat. GG cleared it in 2 tries. Holy crap, this game actually has bond-based survival mechanics. Sorry, I shouldn't have questioned when Cynthia was interacting with her Pokémon during battle earlier. I was wrong. Archon, wait, what? They started shouting about bonds and friendship and stuff, then just charged right at me. Meanwhile, Cynthia sat stunned in front of her screen, looking at the stone badge hanging on her character and the grovel beside her, speechless for a long moment. After a while, she pressed the interaction key and patted Grovel's back. You did amazing, Grovel. And congratulations, you're stronger now than you were before. Grove. Grovel made a proud expression and turned its head away. Clearly, evolution hadn't changed its personality one bit. Watching it, Cynthia suddenly smiled. Trust and bonds between trainer and Pokémon? An unprecedented sense of recognition welled up in her heart. Yes, few people knew this, but that was the most powerful force of all bar none. Pokémon and trainers who lacked that bond, no matter how strong their raw power, could never unleash even half their true potential. She reached up and brushed a strand of hair from her face. This game kept bringing her more and more surprises. So then, let the journey continue. She wondered how many more challenges lay ahead, waiting for her. She controlled her character and left the gym. Meanwhile, in Viridian City in the Kanto region, Kairos stretched at his computer and let out a long breath. It had to be said, after purchasing that efficiency boost module, his game development speed had definitely improved significantly. In just these few hours, he had completed the maps and NPCs for Dewford Town, Dewford Gym and the cave above the gym. He'd also knocked out the nearby water routes and that sunken ship. Even though players wouldn't be able to access these areas in the early game, they'd be needed later on. After updating and uploading the completed content, Kairos stood up. Dewford Town, as the location of the second challengeable gym, wasn't very large and didn't have much story content. But the cave above it was the real centerpiece. According to his game design, it would not only involve the key character Steven, but Kairos had also tucked a little surprise in there. Though this time, when players met Steven, it would just be a simple introduction. As for that surprise, whether players would discover it would depend on their skill level. Speaking of which, after Dewford Town and the cave, the next gym to challenge would be Movely Gym in Movely City. But between Movely City and Dewford Town, there was actually another city, Slateport City. Kairos was planning to arrange a battle between the player and their rival as well as Paul there. He hadn't forgotten how, when he first played Emerald years ago, he'd chosen Mudcup as his starter and excitedly headed to the bridge above Slateport City, ready to go to the next city for the gym battle, only to get completely destroyed by his rival's grovel that suddenly appeared. That was definitely one of his childhood gaming traumas. So naturally, Kairos wanted to let the players of this world get a good taste of that, experience too. With this thought, Kairos stretched. Tonight he'd finish the maps and NPC battles around Slateport City, then work on Movely City content tomorrow. For now, he'd take a break and check how his game sales were doing. He casually opened the sales software backend, but was stunned by the numbers in front of him. It's already sold over 9,000 copies. That number might not seem huge, but this game had only been on sale for 2 days. And Kairos hadn't done any promotional work during that time. Even on the day Cynthia streamed the game, sales had only increased by about 2,000. This meant that as time went on, the game was gradually spreading throughout gaming circles. And the sales growth going forward would be exponential more and more. Over 9,000 copies, at 2,800 each, after taxes and platform fees, that's at least over 2 million in my pocket, right? Kairos muttered to himself, the corner of his mouth turning up slightly. 2 million. Since arriving in this world, when had he ever been this wealthy? He'd withdraw the money right away and find a new place to live with Litwick. He'd been sick of this crappy rental for ages. As Kairos was celebrating, he suddenly remembered another important matter. With so many copies sold, his emotion point earnings should be pretty substantial too, right? With this thought, he immediately opened the system panel to check. The information quickly refreshed. Ding! Host has received surprise, curiosity, recognition, anger, and other emotions from key figures Cynthia, Iono, and Professor Oak. The three individuals provided the following points, respectively, 80 points, 100 points, 50 points. Looking at this notification, Kairos couldn't help but be stunned. Professor Oak. That guy, at his age, he plays video games too. Imagining that scene, he smacked his lips. Tisk, that's really young at heart. Chapter 18, Being Watched? Part-time activities. When he thought about it, it actually made sense. The guy had been a champion back in the day. Now that he was older, playing games to recapture the feeling of being a trainer was perfectly reasonable. But, why were the emotion points so low this time? Kairos was certain it wasn't a problem with his game content. After all, when Cynthia first streamed the game, she'd brought in nearly 200 points. But this time, Iono, Cynthia, and Professor Oak combined had only provided 230 points total. Just as Kairos was pondering this, a system notification popped up in front of him, answering his question. Ding! Please note, emotion points gained from the same game and the same person will gradually decrease. Over time, they will drop to a minimum of 1/4 of the original amount. Kairos looked at this and raised an eyebrow. So, he needed to find ways to get more people to play this game. In other words, he had to fully promote Emerald. Moreover, from these past 2 days of emotion point income, he could already see that when the player base wasn't large enough, emotion points from regular purchasers was minimal. The real jackpot came from special characters with status like Cynthia, Professor Oak, and Iono. So, going forward, if he wanted to earn massive emotion points, besides promoting the game widely, he'd also need to find ways to get special figures like them to play Emerald. But obviously, that wouldn't be easy. At Kairos's current level, forget about approaching them, even contacting them would be extremely difficult. After all, not every Elite Four member or champion was like Cynthia or Iono, streaming on platforms. Plus, he still had no clue how Cynthia, Iono, and Professor Oak had even discovered Emerald in the first place. It couldn't be purely from the gaming festival's promotional effects, right? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. With this thought, Kairos shook his head slightly. Now that the game's income was picking up, he might as well spend some money on promotion. Pokémon Emerald would naturally become a phenomenon-level game, and with its quality improving as he upgraded his modules, a little promotion would eventually make it explode in popularity. Of course, the most important thing was still winning first place at the gaming festival. The official league traffic promotion spot that wasn't something money could buy. As Kairos was contemplating the specifics, he suddenly felt a chill beside him as a cold breeze swept past. He turned to look and saw that Litwick, who had been sleeping for ages, had finally woken up. Litwick. As soon as it woke up, Litwick bounced right over to Kairos's side, putting on a pitiful expression. Hungry, hey? Here, this is for you. Kairos was prepared, smiling slightly as he pulled a can of Pokémon food from his drawer and handed it over. In this world, while the entertainment industry wasn't very developed, the number of internet users was substantial. Pokémon Emerald had already been released for 3 full days, and clips of Cynthia and Iono's gameplay streams, along with news about the game, had gradually started appearing online. On the web's largest short video platform, a site called Magnemite Station, several videos had begun trending and climbing the rankings. A newly released pixel game is selling for the outrageous price of 5,922 yen. Hell level difficulty, yet 100% positive reviews. Gaming Festival's biggest dark horse? Climbing toward first place in just 2 days, could it defeat Dream Factory? Sinnoh champion Cynthia and Paldea gym leader Iono playing Emerald complete meltdown compilation. Watch it all at once. Shocking! Cynthia becomes the first to clear Emerald's ultra-difficult gym battle. Do you understand what the power of bonds means? Missing person, does anyone know who this Roxanne is? Why is she so powerful? As these videos gained popularity, Pokémon Emerald began entering the sights of internet users everywhere. Naturally, it also caught the attention of certain people. Right now, in the Sinnoh region, Jubilife City, top floor of a certain skyscraper, a young man in a brown suit and sunglasses frantically pushed open the office door. Clutching a tablet in his hands, he rushed to the desk, gasping. "Boss! We have a problem." Sitting behind the desk was a middle-aged man in casual clothes with parted hair, his eyes calm but radiating an oppressive aura. Anyone with experience could tell this was the kind of presence naturally formed from countless battles in the business world. This was Nova, the owner of the world's largest and most powerful gaming company, Dream Factory. Nova looked up at him coldly. How many times have I told you? Knock before entering. Now talk. What's got you this panicked? The suited man wiped cold sweat from his forehead and quickly handed over the tablet, explaining rapidly. Boss, 3 days ago, a game called Pokémon Emerald suddenly appeared in the gaming festival. In these 3 days, it's climbed from over 1000th place on the popularity rankings to 20th place, and its popularity is still growing. Emerald. Nova chewed on the name, looking down at the tablet. It was a recording of Cynthia's first gameplay stream. After a few moments, he looked up, his gaze now more serious. In just minutes, he'd grasped the general content and gameplay of the title. What caught his attention most was that, despite being a turn-based game, the cities and routes were rendered in exquisite detail. This visual quality. As a gaming company owner, while he didn't participate in development himself, he understood that this technical level was far from simple. Even with his company's mastery of pixel game technology, they couldn't completely replicate it. Who made the game? Did you find out? He asked coldly. Boss, I checked immediately. The information says it was individually developed, but I think that's impossible. Probably some company using a front. I'm guessing it might be Piplup Studios, or maybe Grayscale. Nova set down the tablet and lit a cigar. Against our Dream Factory, whoever it is poses no threat. Who it is doesn't matter. What matters is we can't let them continue developing like this. He exhaled smoke rings. Notify the development department emergency meeting tonight at 8 p.m. Even those on vacation must return. If they can't make it in time, they'll join online. No one is to be absent. The suited man was stunned and asked carefully. Boss, you mean? Nova glanced at him. Imitation, just like we've done before. Pixel games have such low development costs. With our technology, we can make something better anytime. Copy their battle system and content, change the region, add some storylines, speed up updates, lower the difficulty, make it more enjoyable. Their creativity is good, but setting the difficulty this high with such an expensive price, they're basically asking to die. Plus, our new product will be launching in the gaming festival soon. When the time comes, we'll hit them from both sides. On one hand, a competing product with higher quality and lower price, on the other, traffic domination in the gaming festival. What waves could they possibly make? The suited man's face lit up with a smile as he gave a thumbs up. Boss is brilliant. As expected of you, I'll notify them right away. He left the office with his tablet. Nova stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at the city, his eyes flashing with arrogance as he snorted coldly. Humph, Emerald. No one can shake Dream Factory's position in the gaming industry. Not even a little bit. I absolutely won't allow it. Meanwhile, in Viridian City, Kairos had no idea his game had caught Dream Factory's attention. He was watching Litwick, happily devouring its Pokémon food, with an ant-like, benevolent smile. Who came up with Pokémon anyway? They're way too cute. Sure enough, he didn't need to become a trainer. Just having 1 or 2 Pokémon to live with would make him plenty happy. Slow down, there's more when you're done. Kairos opened his drawer to reveal dozens of cans of Pokémon food stacked inside, showing them to Litwick. Litwick's eyes lit up, and it buried its head back in its food with renewed enthusiasm. Eating this much and sleeping this much? Just how long were you hungry and tired before you met me? Seeing its behavior, Kairos couldn't help but sigh. As he spoke, he suddenly remembered something. Right, where exactly did Litwick come from? Even though he was in Viridian City's suburbs, it was still within a major city's jurisdiction with lots of human activity. By all logic, there shouldn't be any ghost-type Pokémon here. Ghost-type Pokémon generally lived in remote wilderness areas or abandoned buildings. If one appeared in the city, it would cause a commotion and attract law enforcement. To figure this out, the best approach would be to ask Litwick directly. After all, he had that Pokémon language translation module, might as well use it. With this thought, Kairos patted Litwick and posed his question. Hey, can you tell me how you ended up in my room? Litwick stopped eating, looking somewhat confused and thoughtful. Litwick, It began explaining. After a moment, having heard Litwick's account, Kairos had a general idea. So you're saying you used to live in some special space, then somehow just appeared in my room. Litwick nodded. Litwick. Now Kairos found this strange. Why did it sound like this guy had also traveled here from somewhere else? Do you have any impressions of that space you mentioned? He asked again. Litwick thought for a moment and answered. Litwick, Lit. There were lots of scary guys there. The sky was completely different from here. Didn't like it there, so dark, so hungry, so scary. Kairos fell into thought. In his memories of the original series, there didn't seem to be any space like what Litwick described. The only thing that somewhat matched was Ultra Space. But Ultra Space was full of terrifying Ultra Beasts ordinary Pokémon simply couldn't enter. Litwick had no reason to appear there either. After a moment, he reached out and petted Litwick's head, smiling. It's okay. Since you don't like it there, just stay with me from now on. Big Bro Kairos will get you the good stuff, take you to the top of the Litwick world, how about it? Litwick nodded blankly. Litwick. Though it couldn't quite understand what Kairos meant. As long as there was food, it was fine. After comforting Litwick, Kairos opened his system panel to check his current emotion point balance. Since Cynthia and Iono had been streaming the game for 2 days, emotion points had been slowly increasing. Right now, including the 230 points from those 3, his total was 620. Since his points had dropped to single digits after his last module purchase, Kairos could clearly calculate that players who bought the game during this period had provided about 400 points. Considering the number of people who bought the game, Kairos felt this gain was minimal. Not to mention, these players' contributions were essentially one-time only, the same player would provide fewer points over time. Kairos couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Those intermediate modules required at least 2,000 points each. At this rate, when would he ever be able to buy all the intermediate modules he wanted? No way, he had to think of something. He couldn't just wait. Kairos fell into deep thought. But just then, a notification lit up before his eyes. Ding! Detected that the host has a strong demand for emotion points. Task function unlocked. Ding! Host has received side quest, part-time activities. Task difficulty, C. Task requirements, register as a streamer on any platform and achieve a peak viewership of 1000. Task rewards, random special low-level module ×1, 200 emotion points. Task note, if the benefactor doesn't like playing games, this humble monk also knows a thing or two about entertainment value. Kairos was stunned. Right. According to the system's explanation, not only could he gain points when his games caused emotional changes in people, he could do it personally, too. Streaming was undoubtedly the best way to influence others' emotions. So, what would he stream? Kairos glanced at the icons on his desktop, then at the words entertainment value in the task note, and suddenly had a bold idea. The next moment, evil laughter echoed through the room. Litwick, who was eating. Sigma, degree. This kind of laughter? Am I, back in that scary place again? Help me. Chapter 19, Privacy Protection and Battle Road. Kairos had no idea that his incredibly evil laughter had just scared a certain little one in the room. Speaking of which, since he was going to rely on streaming to earn emotion points, he naturally needed to go where the audience numbers were highest. He opened his browser and clicked on the Seduc streaming platform to register for a streamer account. But when entering his identity information, he found himself stumped. No matter how he entered his personal details, the result was always a string of garbled text. Hey? A bug. Just as he was feeling confused, a system notification appeared before him. Ding! Please note that since the host's transmigration, the newbie protection function has been activated. The host's identity has been strictly protected. No one can investigate or obtain the host's information. Remaining protection time, 4 days, 3 hours, 23 minutes. Renewing protection for 1 week costs 10 emotion points. The cost increases with each renewal. Looking at this information, Kairos suddenly understood. No wonder when he'd registered on the gaming platform before, his identity information had also turned into garbled text. He'd thought there was a problem with the league's website. Turns out it was because of the system's influence. He tried clicking confirm on the web page in front of him, and sure enough, even with all that garbled information, a registration successful notification still popped up. Renewal only costs 10 points. Kairos rubbed his chin. This function was really useful. This way, even if his games became completely popular later on, he wouldn't have to worry about being targeted by others. Of course, what he was most worried about were rival game companies or this world's villainous organizations. After all, he still didn't know what Team Rocket, Team Galactic, and the other villain organizations were like in this world. What if some villain boss discovered he knew too much and sent people to silence him? With this identity hiding effect, he didn't need to worry about that. This also reminded Kairos to be more cautious and low-key in real life. As for online, that was fair game. After all, as long as he didn't court death, no one could figure out his real identity. With this thought, Kairos closed the panel in front of him and opened his streaming room. But he didn't immediately start streaming. Instead, he clicked on a desktop icon and launched Battle Road. That's right, Kairos's plan was to first stream himself playing this Dream Factory masterpiece. On one hand, this was the only relatively mature online battle game on the market. On the other hand, it was a perfect opportunity to carefully study the game's mechanics. As the saying goes, know yourself and your enemy, and you'll never be defeated. Creating a virtual Pokémon battle game was undoubtedly a step Kairos would inevitably take. After all, many things Dream Factory couldn't achieve in game development would be no challenge at all for him as long as he had higher level modules. As cheerful music played and the game started up, Dream Factory's logo appeared. A gentle female voice prompt followed. Welcome to the world of Battle Road. Please enter your player name. After thinking briefly, Kairos quickly typed on his keyboard and decisively entered 4 characters. Decent person. After successfully registering his account, Kairos spent a few minutes completing the game's tutorial and roughly understanding the game's mechanics. In a sense, Battle Road was also a turn-based game, but unlike Emerald, the battles were presented more realistically. The general battle flow involved players inputting voice commands through their microphone to direct their Pokémon's next actions. The game program would then take some time to calculate and simulate, displaying the confrontation between both players' Pokémon under those commands several seconds later. After one round ended, both players would input new voice commands for the next round. While this wasn't real-time command battling due to the significant delay, realistic commands like dodge to the left and use flamethrower toward the sky could still be implemented. Considering this world's game development standards, this kind of technology was already world-leading at the very pinnacle. No wonder Dream Factory could still maintain Battle Road's position as the most popular game even while slacking off. However, for Kairos, this kind of battle game definitely wasn't satisfactory. Just as he switched back to the main interface from the tutorial, a huge notification box flashing with rainbow colors popped up directly on the screen. Congratulations! You've unlocked the limited time first purchase bonus. Spend 2,535 yen to get the limited costume Seduc hat and 1 random designated purple Pokémon unlock card. Kairos was stunned for a moment and closed the notification box, but more boxes immediately flooded in. Cumulative top-up event now active. During the event period, cumulative top UPS of 13,325 yen will earn you the rare item Special Red Pokémon Box. Summer rebate. Different top-up tiers will return different amounts of crystals. New season launched, Battle Pass Online. Unlock premium version for just 7,978 yen, instant level 20. Looking at the dazzling array of payment promotions before him, Kairos's mouth twitched involuntarily. Now this felt familiar. Way too familiar. Battle Road, as a free-to-play game, clearly had no shortage of built-in payment features. This familiar style vaguely reminded him of a certain old acquaintance. Shaking his head slightly, Kairos closed all the interfaces and opened the Pokémon screen only to be slightly stunned. As a battle simulation game, every single Pokémon in here actually needed to be unlocked. They were divided into 5 tiers: white, blue, green, purple, and red. The more popular and powerful the Pokémon, the higher its color tier. For example, pseudo-legendary dragon types like Garchomp and Dragonite were all red, and unlocking each one required 1,000 crystals, the game's premium currency. Converted at top-up rates, that was a full 10,307 yen. In other words, building a powerful team might easily cost several thousand yen. To go further and unlock over 100 powerful Pokémon to expand the pool would cost tens of thousands. Even for a professional trainer, that wasn't pocket change. The only good news was that spending money didn't increase a Pokémon's in-game stats. Otherwise, Kairos estimated that online comments and posts bashing Dream Factory would multiply several times over. Chapter 20, Pre-Battle Preparations. Kairos looked more carefully and realized that unlocking those powerful Pokémon without spending money was actually achievable. Dream Factory would periodically launch events in the game to give players small rewards and items. With perfect attendance and serious grinding, after several months of gameplay, unlocking one red-tier Pokémon shouldn't be a problem. But these unlock items were mostly random and couldn't specify which Pokémon you'd get. In other words, even if you unlocked a red-tier Pokémon, it might not be one you actually liked or wanted. As for perfecting a powerful team composition, you'd better just spend money, kid. Right now, Kairos looked at the reward he'd gotten from completing the tutorial, a card that could unlock one designated purple-tier Pokémon, and fell into thought. With the money he had now, spending a little to unlock all the top-tier popular Pokémon would be no problem at all, but he had absolutely no intention of doing that. One of Pokémon's greatest charms was that there are no useless Pokémon, only useless trainers. Even some unpopular Pokémon that everyone considered weak actually had their own tactical value and could even become the core of a team, producing unexpected results. With this thought, he opened the team configuration interface and began selecting from the purple-tier Pokémon. Here were Pokémon like Scyther and Magmar that had decent strength but weren't the most popular. As he looked through them, a familiar figure suddenly made Kairos freeze. With sharp protrusions topped by two yellow eyes and blue, petal-like leaves that extended and contracted, this was a rather strangely designed Pokémon. The Ore Pokémon, Glimmora. Honestly, when Kairos saw Glimmora, he thought he might be seeing things. He couldn't understand how such a powerful Pokémon could possibly appear in the second-tier purple category. You had to know, this was a Pokémon with consistent top 30 usage rates in Scarlet/Violet doubles battles champion Geeta's Ace Hazard setter that she'd save for last. From this point alone, Kairos could tell that the Battle Road players, and even the developers, had rather weak battle understanding. With this realization, Kairos directly consumed his beginner reward item and chose to unlock Glimmora's usage rights. He didn't hesitate, because not only was Glimmora's base strength very high, but he had just thought of a strategy using ordinary Pokémon that could make Glimmora play a crucial role in his team. After selecting Glimmora, Kairos switched back to the Pokémon interface and began making further configuration adjustments. Fortunately, this step was free. Pokémon levels, effort values, and held items could all be freely chosen. But soon Kairos discovered something wrong. Many important items were missing from the list, like the Focus Sash that could survive fatal hits, or Glimmora's key item, the Power Herb. At this moment, Kairos finally understood why Glimmora had been placed in the purple tier category. Because a Glimmora with a Power Herb and one without were completely different Pokémon. Power Herb could skip the charging turn of charge-up moves in battle, allowing them to be used immediately. Although the item would disappear after taking effect, in actual combat combined with Glimmora's incredibly powerful charge move, Meteor Beam, it could directly eliminate an opponent. More importantly, Meteor Beam would also raise Glimmora's special attack by one stage. Combined with Glimmora's base 130 special attack stat, once activated, it would transform into a mobile cannon, blasting whoever it saw. In the original games, Glimmora still had the disadvantage of low speed if it encountered Pokémon that countered it. As a glass cannon, it would have trouble handling them. But in this kind of simulated battle, who attacks first isn't determined by speed. Thinking of this, Kairos shook his head slightly. It seemed this world's development and understanding of Pokémon wasn't as advanced as he'd imagined. Otherwise, how could a world-class gaming company like Dream Factory overlook so many key battle items? Moreover, Glimmora's hidden ability, Corrosion, didn't appear in the adjustable range either, which meant people here probably didn't know about some Pokémon's hidden abilities. But for Kairos, this was actually a good thing. After all, the less everyone understood about Pokémon, the bigger the sensation his upcoming games could create. Speaking of which, even without Power Herb, it didn't matter. Glimmora wasn't meant to be a cannon-type damage dealer in his team anyway, it had other uses. He quickly adjusted Glimmora's effort values and moveset, then began looking at other Pokémon. The good news was that white, green, and blue tier Pokémon could all be used freely. However, Pokémon in these tiers were generally like Mytaina, Parasect, and Magcargo, unpopular with low base stats. Kairos glanced through them and directly searched for two Pokémon to add to his team, the round, ball-like electric-type rodent Dedenne, and the purple-bodied normal-type with two long, hand-like tails, Ambipom. These two seemingly unremarkable Pokémon would become the core of his upcoming strategy. Just thinking about what he was about to do made him want to laugh. Next, Kairos looked around some more and added Pidgeot, Quagsire, and Dugtrio to his team. After completing the specific configuration for each Pokémon, he opened the PvP interface. Battle Road's PvP had two different modes, 1v1 singles and 2v2 doubles, with players able to use 6 Pokémon in each mode. Each mode had its own scoring rankings, from low to high, Pokeball, Great Ball, Ultra Ball, Luxury Ball, and Master Ball, 5 tiers in total. Most players remained perpetually in the Great Ball tier. Ultra Ball was for skilled players with good game understanding. Luxury Ball and Master Ball were top-tier divisions only accessible to powerful trainers like gym leaders, Elite Four members, and champions. Right now, Kairos clicked the doubles matchmaking button. At the same time, he opened his streaming room and entered a title. Decent Person, Challenge 0 spending new account 100% win rate to Master Ball. Lose 1 match, give away 2,056,250 yen prize pool giveaway.
Thanks for listening.